recording. Okay, perfect.
Wow.
It works.
Here we are.
This is it. Hello and welcome back to the Matt Mellish channel. I, of course, am Matt, and this is the newest series that we are adding to this YouTube channel, which is the Plos Bros podcast. That's a tongue twister.
Plos Bros podcast.
Plos Bros podcast. I, of course, am your host, Matt Mellish, and joined with me is my co-host, Sam Govan.
Howdy.
How's it going, Sam?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to be here. This is pretty surreal.
It's a lot of Mando hype.
Yeah. Well, the fact that we've been saying that we're going to start a podcast for how long? 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say 5 years.
Because it was since The Force Awakens came out, I think.
Yeah,
right?
and we kind of discovered what podcasts were.
Yeah.
And we realized you could talk about Star Wars on the internet, and people would somehow listen to you.
Yeah, so here we are. So in this episode, we're primarily going to be covering the Mando Season 2 hype. We're going to be talking about Season 1 of The Mandalorian, get into collectibles and other pop culture related topics if we do, but typically we're going to have like a news section and all of that in the show, I'm thinking, and then we'll have special shows, and this one is one of those special ones since in 4 days, Mandalorian Friday. Season 2 comes out, and we're really excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big thing, and I'm hoping that we don't know where it's going, but we'll try to pretend like we know where it is.
I thought in this episode we could start out, since they don't know exactly like our history with Star Wars, because I never really explained that, I don't think.
Okay.
We can go over like where we started with it, since this is the very first episode of the Plos Bros podcast. There, I got to write that down.
Hey, there we go. So,
Sam, when did you start watching Star Wars? When did it become a part of your life?
Well, it's been over 10 years now. It was in the times before when the Clone Wars series first started. So I was not really sure what it was. I honestly came into it because I knew about Han and Carbonite, and I was really obsessed with Chronicles of Narnia, and I knew that the queen takes people to stone, and so I was like, whoa, there's this science fiction movie where this guy turns into stone, and I'm just gonna watch that. And my dad had me started watching A New Hope. And then I started watching it, and then I watched everything. And then one day I was watching, he just turned on Cartoon Network, and that Ambush, the first episode of Clone Wars, was on. So that's perfect. That was literally the episode 1 of season 1. Yeah, so I started on it from the ground level, and then I, as a crazy and rambunctious high schooler, illegally downloaded it on the internet. And
because I remember when I met you, you actually introduced me to whatever website it was that allowed us to watch Rebels.
Yeah.
And we were in the play together, and that's how we met, really, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I remember you showing me that, and then throughout watching Rebels, I could always just stream it online, and that saved me so many times when I was either somewhere else where I couldn't, have access to the TV right there and then. It was really nice to, be introduced to another fellow Star Wars fan and realize that we have so much in common.
Well, at a young age, it's amazing too. You think about, I don't know about you, but watching A New Hope for the first time, it's so corny that you watch all these videos of all these people, and like at Celebration or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, well I can remember the white hallway with the blue guys and the white helmets, and I can remember a rainy day with my dad. He rented the video from Giant Eagle, and I was like, man, and then like watching that, and like I can clearly remember like all that stuff. But what's your Star Wars history?
Well, for me it was R2-D2. Like that was the first thing that I remember. The first words that I said to my mom was, "Mom, why can't R2-D2 talk? Like there's no subtitles. Like I don't understand what he's actually saying. How is he talking to this other robot? Like I don't."
Sad beep here.
But yeah, like I was so confused about what it was when I first saw it. But prior to that, because we went to 2 separate schools.
Yeah.
So we didn't go to the same middle school. And I don't know about you, I had a rough middle school life. I was not everybody's favorite person. I suffered from, a lot of bullying. People judged me for being who I was.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of kids, especially who grow up with Star Wars, feel that way. But I actually hated Star Wars before I liked it, because everybody in the playground would play Star Wars, right? I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm Han Solo, and they literally did that in my school, and I didn't understand any of it because that was before I was exposed to it. I knew what the characters looked like relatively, but that was about it. I had no idea what the story was, and I was like, can I be a part of this? And they're like, you can be R2-D2, he basically does nothing. I'm like, Little did I know that he's like is the Lord of Star Wars, and he like always saves their butt for everything. Anyways,
you just show them that scene from episode 3 of him taking out those super battle droids, and you're like, well, he's the hero.
Exactly, with the oil slick and the flames from his jetpack. Well, that was funny because it was before episode 3 actually came out. But they were playing Star Wars on the playground.
Oh, okay,
and pretending to have lightsabers and blasters and duel around. But yeah, I was R2-D2 and I basically did nothing for like an entire recess. But my mom told me that you can't hate something unless you try it for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about it. So, of course, she got the VHS tapes from my dad's friend and showed them to me. And she had never really been into it either, but she knew what it was. She went and saw it in the theater for herself. And I was exposed to it and immediately hooked after watching episode 4. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Flash forward, here we are, what is it, 15 years later?
Yeah.
We're talking about the first live-action Star Wars series going into the second season.
Yeah, and that's insane to just think about, like, the fact that we even got a Star Wars live-action series.
Oh, yeah, and, like, because we were in the era of 1313 and all those series that were coming on. That like, oh, yeah, well, George Lucas is going to develop this thing for HBO, and... well, maybe not. And then, it's interesting to see, because I remember when we were in high school, Disney acquiring Lucasfilm, and then what that, like the hype for Force Awakens and going into that. And so this show kind of just snuck up on our radar. It kind of is like Disney Plus, and we're going to get a series, but we heard rumblings and then a trailer. And like, I've loved how the show has been super vague. And we'll talk about this as we get into our prediction, but this show has been super vague and super interesting about as far as hyping it up. They're hyping up something, but we don't know what they're hyping up.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's definitely different than anything we've ever seen in Star Wars before. And I like that. I think 1313 would have been that thing, or Star Wars Underworld, whatever that series was that George was making, that ended up just not being fully produced. He had all the scripts for them, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's the crazy part. He had a whole show written. And they integrated it into Clone Wars with 1313 and the Ahsoka arcs and stuff like that, but we just never seen it fully fleshed out. But this also kind of delves into the more, like, gritty side of Star Wars with the bounty hunter stories revolving around this lone gunslinger going on adventures around the galaxy, which is really cool to see, too, that it's not just set to one planet. They are able to actually have a wide swath of locations that they go to, and they're not having to spend money to do it because they're just using the volume, which is the technology that they're, like, integrating VR with so that they just can project it on the wall.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Those documentaries were amazing on the Gallery episodes of Disney Plus.
So if you haven't seen Mandalorian, the Gallery on Disney Plus, watch it.
It's a must watch. And honestly, like, going back to, like, how we got into Star Wars, that was kind of the side of why it stuck with me for so long. I loved the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm sure you did too. Like, growing up and watching the documentaries on all the original Star Wars films. The Empire of Dreams documentary.
Well, see, and that's something I didn't even watch. I don't even remember watching until Disney Plus came out. I actually...
Really?
Yeah, so every week I would wait until, like, when the Clone Wars episodes came out, I would immediately go online, StarWars.com, and go through the galleries and watch. Remember the featurettes after every episode?
Yes, those were the best.
Except for the worst one is Weapons Factory, when Dave Filoni talks about for 5 minutes about Barasafi cutting a perfect square.
He does. It's true. I remember that. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, this was a great episode, and they talk about Barasafi cutting a perfect square.
Well, some Jedi, they make the circle, and it would be cool to see another one that does the square.
I think circles are the most often cut shape, but Barris cuts a square.
But back to Mandalorian stuff, I absolutely love Season 1.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, and as you see, I bought plenty of collectibles from it.
Yeah.
And Matt has too, if you've seen the channel and all the things. But I think we want to kind of transition to our first little segment of Merchandise Corner and talk about some of the things coming up.
Let's do it.
Today was the first Mando Monday, and so the next 8 weeks or so, Disney's going to be releasing images of upcoming products and things like that. So today on their YouTube channel, they had a half-hour little blurb about upcoming things and the cast opening up toys and merchandise. The first was the Funkos, and so Funko Pops like these ones here. The first one's going to be a Boba Fett.
Where? Boba Fett, where?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the Mandalorian with a jetpack, which is kind of like this one. It's just going to be the Mando with the pistol and the jetpacks. So
it looks pretty cool. It reminded me of the Jango Fett one that they made in the past, actually.
Yeah, that was an exclusive to somewhere, wasn't it?
Walgreens?
I believe so.
I want to say Walgreens, because Walgreens had all of those prequel exclusives for some reason. Like
Yeah.
Kit Fisto, I think, was a Walgreens exclusive. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there. They made one like that of the Mando with the child flying
Yes.
as well, and that's
Yes.
that's also a giant pop too. I've seen that
Yes.
out in Walmart and stuff. And they're also making the Gamorrean guard fighter, like from the trailer, that first,
Yes.
like the little whatever Jon Favreau teased for season 2.
That Instagram pic, yeah.
Of like the skinny Gamorrean guard.
I feel like it's really cool to just see more Gamorrean guards or more creatures from Star Wars that we haven't in other places. So, like, what I'm saying is, in season 1 of The Mandalorian, we get Jawas, but they're off-world Jawas. They're not on Tatooine. It is cool to, like, have an explanation as to, you know, in our minds, why they're going across the galaxy. Why aren't they just on one planet? Same with the Gamorrean guards. Because we think about them as just being Jabba's guards that we see in Return of the Jedi, and we don't understand what their purpose is or what their role is in the galaxy.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, it reminds me of, like, sumo wrestlers from the trailer, at least.
Well, even like the ones in Clone Wars, like on Nal Hutta.
Yes.
Like we've always seen them just really fat, like ones. And so it's interesting to see these ones that have like short horns and like, you know, they're kind of built. It's interesting, and the Funko Pop really does bring that kind of side of it out. But yeah, it's Gamorrean guards. I guess we can kind of get into that when we talk about our season 2 predictions, because that's kind of a part of it. And so another one they announced is the Mithril. So do you remember that character?
Yeah,
the first
the blue guy, the blue aqua looking character.
Yeah, the one that was trying to use the Star Wars toilet for the first time.
Horatio Sands. He's a comedian of some sort.
Yeah, I think he's on Saturday Night Live.
That's what I was gonna say. SNL.
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of his character in the first episode of Mandalorian. He just seemed like he took me out of the episode. His acting was a bit more campy than normal Star Wars campy acting. And we can get into that too when we talk about a little bit more of season 1 stuff. But I feel like that's not a character that I would necessarily want a pop of. I mean, if you're collecting all of the Mandalorian pops, that will be the one that you get. Is it an exclusive one, or is that going to be everywhere?
I think it's a general line one. Same thing with, there's a new Cara Dune coming out as well. So that's going to be, those are the two that were kind of announced together. I'm not sure if they're officially announced yet, but they've been leaked across the internet. I would actually prefer a Mithril and Carbonite, but that's just my...
I think a lot of people would rather have that, actually.
Because that was one thing that was teased early on, and we didn't even know. I remember talking with you about, who's this character in Carbonite?
Yeah.
And I loved my favorite theory was it was Moralo evolved from Clone Wars, and that somehow he was coming back in live action.
Moralo evolved.
Talking in third person about himself all the time, you know? But yeah, I think that would be cool pops. And I'm a sucker for a cool pop. I've been on the hunt for a Cara Dune, and so I was actually, my girlfriend and I were out looking for them the other day, so hopefully I can find one here soon.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, they're pretty readily available, I feel like. She's one of the main characters in the show, but she's not the Mandalorian. She's not the one that everybody would go and get at first.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future it'll probably be worth a lot more, but
it's kind of like the child ones. There's so many variations of the child ones right now, and it's like, which one do I want?
Do I want the bull, the frog, the regular one, the big one?
Yeah, and I personally like the bull one, and that's the one I'm probably gonna end up buying, but at least and watch them announce one from season 2 that I really need. So it's like,
they're gonna have 3 Baby Yoda pops for every single season of Mando,
or every episode.
Every episode. Yeah, we'll just have 8 Mando Baby Yoda pops. Yeah, I mean, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
See, I like pops. I'm not the biggest pop collector. Mm-hmm. Our other friend Vic, if you're watching this, he is the biggest pop collector that I think I've ever seen in real life.
Oh yeah.
I have, of course, like, that's my pop collection there. It's like 10 pops. That's about it. But they're ones that I really like. Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm collecting a certain series. I collect one per each movie, probably, of the newer films.
Yeah, and I like the cool ones. Like, I'm really looking for the Moff Gideon one.
That's a cool one, yeah. And it's a harder one to find.
Yeah, and the Incinerator Trooper, just because it looks like the flame effect's really cool. So I think, like, trying to find the right one that and it adds to your collection, because at the same time, no one has all the room in the world. Yeah. So it's trying to find, like, with your Lego and with your pops, whatever, it's finding that balance that works.
Yeah. And by the way, just so you know, when we address collectibles, we are both huge Lego fans, so he has a lot too, and
I have a problem.
That's okay. It's not a problem. As long as you have the space for it, and if you have the money available to devote to the cause, it's what matters.
It's all about budgeting, people. Definitely have to balance it all out. And I'm on a little bit of a break right now, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard for us to tell you what you should get. I get questions all the time like, would you recommend a specific set in the $50 range? It's like, I can't tell you that. It's like, you need to go to the store. It's same with Pops.
Oh, yeah.
You need to go to the store and look at what you would like to put on your shelf, or search it for it at home and think about what you like. Do you like The Mandalorian? Do you like Clone Wars? Because there's so many different parts of this universe now, between the movies, video games, TV series, comics, etc., etc.
Anymore, like that's why I've honestly started buying things straight off Bricklink for Lego, because I'll say, oh well, I really like this character, but I can't fit that entire set in my house.
Or you don't want to spend $100 for a specific set when you could just get the figure for what, $15, even if it's like a super rare figure.
Yeah, and you have to. It's all about timing and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But this is not a Lego buying podcast right now, so.
It's okay. We can go off on tangents.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of it.
Kind of moving on, talking about like how, getting the right collection. Have you been collecting any Black Series lately, or what's
literally over there? The only 2 Black Series collectibles I have are a Kylo Ren and Stormtrooper from Episode 7. Those you know where those came from? Toys R Us on the first night of what's it called?
Force Friday.
Force Friday.
Gotta blow off the dust off that name. Toys R Us.
What? I missed those events so much. Yeah. Could you imagine if we got a Force Friday for Mandalorian with all these collectibles coming out?
And I think that's where Mando Monday is coming from, because we had last year we had Triple Force Friday, and we've had Wookiee Wednesday and things like that. But
now with the world in chaos the way it is, we can't have certain events like that anymore, or it's just, I guess, frowned upon. But
so you can't go to Walgreens at 3 a.m. and buy a Funko Pop from some person who doesn't want to be there at 3 a.m.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's like going to a con.
Oh, yeah.
With all these people who are there to buy the same stuff. And I remember going to Force Friday and how people were like wiggling in a little bit earlier to try to like get the first Lego set that they saw, or to get that action figure that they knew everybody would want. So literally the only 2 Black Series figures I have are that Kylo Ren and the Stormtrooper from Episode 7. Because I thought, you know what? This might in the future be a good investment. They've never been taken out of the box. Same with any of my Pops, except I think my Luke Skywalker.
Oh, yeah, I think that one came out. I would like to take that giant Snoke out of the box sometime.
No, it's too rare of a figure. We can't do that.
Yeah.
I found a giant Snoke hologram pop at a con for $10, $10 or $11, and it was going for a super high amount online somewhere.
Yeah. I walked past it, and Matt was looking at something else, and I was like, dude, look at that pop right there, dude.
I think I see the price tag. $10.99. Oh.
I was like, is that $109? No, it was 10. And so
I couldn't believe it.
Matt and I, when we go to cons and we were at a collectible store last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
We saw something. We're like, for something again for a really low price. And meanwhile, I'm distracting people, and he's looking at prices like, what's the resale value on this? Okay, I'm not a scalper, but okay, I'm gonna buy this and put it in my collection. Keep it in the box.
Yeah, well, I'm the type of person, if I'm gonna get something as an investment, or something that I know is worth a lot more than it's being sold for, I'll keep it in the box and either never sell it or keep it in the box for 10 years until I would want to get rid of it. And at that point, I probably wouldn't even want to. So I'm so used to having it on my shelf at home.
Yeah.
Do you have any of the Black Series figures?
I do not. But I'm looking for a Incinerator Trooper right now.
Is it out?
It's weird. I've been seeing it online.
Here's my question. I saw that Cad Bane. I really like the Cad Bane. We talked about the Hondo one. Thought you might want that one. Are you still in the hunt for that one?
So it seems like all the targets out around got a small amount, and they all sold out. The only thing I've seen is Captain Cardinal.
See, that's what I'm trying to gauge. Like, are these figures actually readily available, or is each target getting 2 of the same figure and that's it?
So remember, you and I saw. Did we see a Hondo and a DJ Rex?
We didn't see the Hondo because you said you would have gotten the Hondo. We were about to go to 2 more targets that day.
Yeah, because they called it something like a Galaxy's Edge drop. Or
yes,
something like
it was that exclusive, just small portion of the outside aisle that became Galaxy's Edge exclusive items. But they aren't actually the same items that are sold at Galaxy's Edge. They were just promoting that in a way.
The cool thing is now there's a Black Series figure of Hondo. And it's Hondo, Captain Cardinal, DJ Rex, and now there's the astromech droid from Smuggler's Run.
Yeah,
you know the one that's below Hondo there in the entrance.
The one from Clone Wars.
Yeah, the one
with the smiley face.
Yeah. That one, they just announced that one, so that one's supposed to be out and about. But I haven't seen that. The only one, I went to 2 different targets this past weekend with my girlfriend, and the
in PA or in
in PA, yeah. And we went. and I only saw one Captain Cardinal. All the other pegs were empty.
Gotcha.
So I think that I'm not sure if that one has come out yet or what. They had the Funko Pops, the droid Funko Pop.
Okay.
But other than that, nothing.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes around.
The shelves are pretty picked over. I mean, we're suffering with that with Lego too.
Yeah, and the only Black Series I saw was the Child. So that was
Yeah, and that's been out for a while.
Yeah, and I got it, but we'll kind of move into this because there's I'm glad I didn't get it because they have a Mando Deluxe Black Series they announced today, which is the Mando with his jetpack, the pram, the Child.
Was that the same one with the removable helmet?
Yes.
Okay.
And which is a really cool, and that is also going to be a Target exclusive.
Okay.
So, which is interesting to me that's going to be a Target exclusive, but
yeah, because that's like something that everybody would want, and they know that. How many are they going to give those targets? Are they?
Oh yeah, and you think about that, it's the same way. Like they've done this with other things too, like kind of like the Razor Crest, or things like that Lego's done. That you think about, but at the same time, they've done things like they made the ITS transport for the Resistance ITS transport exclusive to Target.
That was a weird one.
You can't even get that at the Lego store, so it's very strange that you can only get that at Target.
I don't understand. Maybe there are deals behind the scenes that we don't know about between Disney exclusive licensing and their alliances with Target, because they did the exclusive Galaxy's Edge stuff at Target. Maybe they are having like a corporate alliance with Target in a different way that the public doesn't really know about, or maybe it's already out there and people already know about it. And like, because I've never seen Disney partner with Walmart for an exclusive like that. Not since like
Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, when I actually got the, you can bring it out. Yeah, I got the I would call it exclusive, the Saw Gerrera pop
mine has a sticker on it that says Walmart exclusive.
Well, this is the one
with the misspelling.
With the misspelling. Let me take a look at that. Beautiful. You can throw it down there. Funko Pop.
But sorry, you kind of lost me when you had you said corporate alliance.
Tank Droid.
Yeah, sorry. My mind just went. He said corporate alliance. I was thinking
the corporate alliance Tank Droid.
I was like, well, does that mean the Target and Disney are building?
Do you want to go get that Lego off the shelf? So, would you be willing to get that if you say you walk into a Target, you've never collected a Black Series figure before? If you see that Mandalorian with the Child in the prim with the removable helmet, would you get that figure?
Yeah. I think, and that's because I was trying to figure out if I want to back the HasLab Razor Crest, the full size.
Yes.
And as much as I want to, I can't.
Is that, I didn't know this. Is that the new Jabba's sail barge back the Razor Crest?
Yeah. If they get 13,000 supporters, they already unlocked the escape pod, and the Child with prim comes with it, and it already comes with a Mando with a soft cape. And it's if they get another certain amount of backers, they're gonna include all 4 carbonite blocks.
Okay.
So I was like, man, that'd be really cool to have a 6-inch carbonite of all 4. Because those like really weird kind of carbonite blocks.
Yeah.
And like having the full Razor Crest, which is like
Yeah.
And
especially that it's scaled to the figure's size.
And it has all the detail. It has 3 seats in the cockpit. It has all the gear painted on, the weapon rack, all that stuff. But for $375, I just can't. It's hard for me to
justify it.
Yeah.
Especially spatially speaking.
Yeah. And as I'm on the verge of moving again, it's like all this stuff that I'm trying to figure out, money wise. Just to get the Black Series one will be a lot easier to manage. What about you?
I mean, if I saw that figure on the shelf, I'd probably buy it just because it looks cool. And honestly, I probably would never take it off out of the box. Yeah. I don't know why. I like the backing with just having it all together. I just adjusted all my Lego sets to be like with the figures that the set came with and make sure that all the pieces are there. I don't know why, but I've become so OCD about things just being in the right place nowadays. So I think that, like my Funko Pops, like the 2 Black Series figures I have over on the shelf there, I think I would keep it in the box and just appreciate that and understand that it's worth a lot more value-wise for if I were ever to resell it, which I probably won't. Someday my kids will resell all of my stuff probably. That's fine.
Yeah, I tell my mom about that too, or my girlfriend. I'm like, if anything happens, there's some sets in my closet that are worth a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, do you want to see my purchase? This isn't Mandalorian related, but we're on the topic of value. I did a thing. I found these 3 on Walmart.com, and this is my retirement fund with the 5 of First Battle Packs.
You could have compete with Ryan from M&R.
Oh, there's no competing with that. Isn't he? He should give those to charity or do something with that.
He's doing a big building event, I think. But yeah, as Matt was talking about his OCD, I liked moving his figures around in the different sets for a long time. It's a really fun sport.
Yeah.
You know?
Sam comes over and he'll just move random figures in random places, and I have to like find them.
Admiral Akbar was up here in the Death Star forever, in the conference room, and was like hang out with Grand Moff Tarkin, and I was like, that's Legends. You know, he belonged to Grand Moff Tarkin. And,
yeah, exactly.
But anyway, there's one more Black Series we're going to talk about. It's the Biker Scout with the child. What do you think about that?
I think it's a cool one. I think the Black Series has really amped up their game, honestly. Like, from where they started with... I know the facial technology was a thing for some time, and then I don't know if they're still doing that or not, because honestly, the Mando face isn't the best in the world, in my opinion.
He looks kind of melted.
Yeah, just a little bit. He's sweating under that helmet. I mean, he pretty much is melting when he does take the helmet off, so maybe that's...
Yeah, I don't know.
Similarities. No, I think the Biker Scout looks really cool. I think that as a display is probably better than just a figure, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't. They didn't show any images if the Biker Scout came off the speeder bike, which I don't care.
I would assume that it would, being that these are action figures meant to actually play with for kids. Like, I love having just something that I love to look at on my shelf.
Oh yeah,
or a desk if you're at work or wherever you are.
Hence why I got this blurg. I just really like the look of the Mando with the blurg. I don't know why, but
I think it's because we're Clone Wars fans originally.
Yeah,
we like Rebels. The fact that the blurgs are now being introduced to live action is really cool, and it's a really I love the dewback too, Mandalorian on the dewback. Mm-hmm. I just think it's a really cool scene or concept from a visual perspective.
Yeah, well, that is the big thing, I think, is making those connections and finding that thing that you connect with. And the collectibles, I think that's the end of the day. It's what you connect with.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard to like. It's good to review things, talk about what we like and what we don't. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we all have different opinions about what we like or value, and that's okay.
Yeah, kind of like video games. Like you bought Squadrons.
Yeah,
and I've been over here watching you play Squadrons, and
which is fun for me to do.
Yeah, and I enjoy just hanging out and soaking in the story, and not really, video games aren't really my thing. But at the same time, like, I buy other things. So it's like, it's finding what works for you and all that. So,
exactly.
Yeah, but anything else on collectibles?
I think we can save this for later. We can save this for another episode of the podcast. Next time, Sam will be talking about the Master Builder Mos Eisley Cantina that he has purchased. I want to know what your thoughts are on it. I'm still looking for it.
It's a lot. It is.
We'll see. We can save it.
Yeah.
We'll give them something to look forward to for the Lego people.
Oh yeah, it's a good time. The one thing I do wish is those people who bought Diagon Alley, it came with a little surprise box, and I was desperately hoping that something was going to come with the Cantina, something of that same effect. So like, it came with if you don't know, the Diagon Alley, the Harry Potter set, the Diagon Alley, came with a small surprise box that had an exclusive figure that they didn't advertise in the box, and a little display stand.
I didn't know that.
It was really cool. So I was thinking, oh well, maybe they'll include a figure that we aren't expecting, and it hasn't been leaked yet. And I was like, maybe it'll be Toro Calican from The Mandalorian.
Because Toro is the best character from The Mandalorian, of course.
I didn't know what I expected. I was like, is it going to be...
I mean, it would fit. It would fit.
Oh, yeah. I was like, is it EV-9? I was like thinking, like, in my head, like, I was like, well, he goes back in Mandalorian, in, episode 5, the Gunslinger, and I'm like, maybe it'll show up. Maybe it'll, and it didn't, but after getting that, tempering that expectation of that whole thing...
never keep your expectations super high when it comes to Star Wars Lego.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I feel like Harry Potter gets a lot of help from Lego in a way.
Yeah.
I think their figures are somewhat better.
Oh, yeah.
From what I've seen.
There's so many exclusive molds. Some week we're talking about doing predictions on what this, if we saw CMFs, what a 12-line...
collectible Lego minifigures.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't aware.
Yeah, what those would look like,
Yeah, totally.
So
we have plenty of content to produce, so definitely subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas on what we should do for content, if you like listening to us ramble, feel free to give us suggestions.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, or make a place to write in.
Yeah, well, I do have a P.O. box.
Oh, well.
Send your letters to this P.O. box that I'm putting on the screen right now at the bottom. Beautiful. You never thought you'd be saying those words. Is that it? Link in below. And we're back. We took a very small break in order to have some trail mix.
Yes.
And
thanks, my girlfriend's Aunt Cindy. She made it for Thanksgiving.
Shout out to Aunt Cindy. Woohoo! And I wanted to make sure that we were recording properly. Yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
Anyways, Mandalorian talk.
Yeah. Big Mando talk. Season 1.
yeah, let's talk about season 1 first, what we liked, and then we can slowly get into season 2.
So let's talk. What was your experience with the first episode of what was? It was the launch of Disney Plus. It was you and I had hung out the weekend before. I'd come up to see you at college.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I'll tell my half of that story, which is really fun.
You know what? Let's take a moment from Mandalorian. Let's take a break for a hot second. Stay with us though, because this is funny. What happened that weekend, Sam?
So I had not been up to see Matt at college all 4 years. You know, I had been at my own college, and I came up to see Matt.
Which is not. I mean, it's far enough away.
Yeah.
It's 4 hours.
Yeah, it was 4 hours from my college, and I came up to see Matt, not knowing I had...
Good old Erie, PA.
Didn't realize I had pneumonia. So I came up to Matt's, and I started having fever and severe, felt like I was going to die. And Matt's like, wanting to go do all this stuff, and let's go get wings. Let's go hang out. Let's go... And I was like...
Let's go to the bar, Sam.
And I was like, I just want to lay in bed. And I was like laying on an inflatable mattress on Matt's floor in his bedroom.
Thank God we had that.
Oh my God, yeah. And we're trying to hang out with all of our friends from high school that live in Erie, and I'm like, just have such a bad headache, and I just haven't fevered. And anyway, I wake up one morning in a sweat, and I'm like, oh man, I need to order Disney Plus. And so Matt's still sleeping, and I'm on the
fever
floor.
Dream.
And I'm on
Disney.
the floor, and I'm doing, and so Disney Plus pops up, and it says, do you want to buy $14? Was it $14 a month?
Yes.
Or
something like
$50, $40, whatever it is, $40 a year. And I was like,
I think it's 60 or I don't know. It's a lot. Anyways,
and I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, that's the same amount every month. I was like, why wouldn't I just pay that? And I'm not realizing that a year plan was cheaper than a month-to-month plan. Now you can't go back and change it back. Anyway, so...
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and so I got back from Erie, and I went to the doctor, and they said, oh yeah, you have really bad pneumonia. And so they gave me antibiotics and said, take the next 3 days off work, which led into Disney Plus premiering. So...
Perfect timing.
Exactly. So I got to experience Disney Plus by laying on the couch having pneumonia. And
after your fever dream.
Exactly. So I guess the first episode of Mandalorian, I just got back from Med Express, and I was laying in bed, and I just remember IG-11, and that's the part that really sticks out to me is IG-11 in the compound, and seeing that movement and all that stuff, I think was something that was really interesting to me, seeing that droid had that much articulation and that much ability to move. Yes. But yeah, what's about your experience with Mandalorian season 1? Well,
I think it just goes to show, Sam, never make decisions, kids, when you're having pneumonia or in an altered state. Anyways, I think the first episode, it took me a little bit to get used to. Like I said before, the Horatio Sands blue aqua character
and the walrus coming out of the ice.
I liked that. That was fine for me. The space walrus was perfect. Because it was a good moment. The music came in at the right time. He was using the holiday special ray gun, or whatever what's it called.
Yeah, the what is it? Pulse rifle.
Pulse rifle. That's it. But the blue guy, the Mithril character, the unnamed Mithril. Do we have a name yet?
I think so. Working along with him and the client, I think we're going to get a name for him. Pablo Hidalgo is writing a visual dictionary coming out in the spring. So I think we're going to get that character and the client. Those characters that we don't really have their names for.
Get a good backstory, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah, the client, where'd he come from? We're never going to see him again. So
I'd like to see him in a comic or a book show up.
Or maybe this season he'll come back with robot legs. You don't know. Even though his body got...
Fueled by my singular hatred for Baby Yoda.
And maybe Moff Gideon, because Moff Gideon kind of killed him, so...
Just a little bit.
Yeah, and then the incinerator trooper burned his body. So I don't know
there's a turkey client dinner sitting in the...
I'm waiting for him to... They should have a cutscene of, him crawling out of the thing, yelling at Moff Gideon, I hate you!
Oh, I love that so much.
You're my brother.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so then he's going to come back in a full Darth Vader suit. Spoiler alert, sorry. I didn't mean to spoil Mandalorian Season 2.
Actually, it's just, there's going to be multiple clones of him that Palpatine, we will figure out, has been making.
And that's why Dr. Pershing had the Mandalorian, the Kaminoan patch on his, which, side note.
And that actually turns into what Snoke is because it's a mutation of the client.
So Werner Herzog plays Snoke.
Correct.
Also, I want to say a small side note. I really hate how people say Kaminoan. It's Kaminoan.
Kaminoan.
Oh.
Kaminoan.
Lieutenant Tan Devo in the Clone Wars taught me how to say Kaminoan.
The Kaminoan.
That old Kaminoan bird has flown the coop.
I would have loved to see a live action version. Actually, my pitch. Here's my pitch, everybody. Live action Star Wars mystery solving show with Tan Devo as the crime solver, the detective. It's like Star Wars meets true crime meets Sherlock Holmes.
And some kind of comedy. Are you talking about like the Robert Downey Jr. like comedy side of Sherlock Holmes? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that is funny. I just love how in the one episode he is like a complete, like he's really smart. He's like in Senate Murderers, he's super smart. And then you look at Sphere of Influence and he's a complete idiot. He's like, I don't know who stole these people. I think it was just common criminal.
Well, you know, Sam, it's character development because when you actually watch the series in chronological order, you can see where it all comes
because
from.
he interacted with George Lucas as Baron Papanoida.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's all making sense. All the pieces.
Anyway, Mandalorian.
Just to make sure they know, we are joking about a lot of this. Except I wasn't joking about the Tan Devo series. I think they should do that.
Yeah, I think it has a better chance than like the Dianoga Disney Plus series. It has its own story at a certain point of view.
I've never finished the book. I've just read parts of it that I wanted to look at.
I can't wait. I already pre-ordered it.
The Empire Strikes Back one?
Yeah, because I'm excited to have the Wilbur Hood story. I'm excited to see what that story's about.
Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
Ice Cream Man. Anyways,
okay.
Mandalorian.
Wilbur Hood leads into Beskar. Kamantoa or whatever it's called.
What I really did like about that first episode is, like you said, when you go back and you think about it, honestly, from my perspective, the first 3 episodes are my favorite part of the entire Mandalorian first season. But I like it better than the ending, I think. Because I love the introduction to this character that we get, his mini hero's journey, where he's refusing the call, right, by not immediately going back to save Baby Yoda. He gives him to the client. He goes off about his business. Everybody's looking down at him because he was able to basically sell out. Well, the Mandalorians of the underground cult.
Oh yeah, the guys in the cult in the covert.
Yeah. They hated him because he came back with Beskar armor that was from the Empire, who ended up basically destroying their entire society.
Well, it's hard to understand why. Like, I just rewatched it. My girlfriend wanted to rewatch it before the season started again because she'd only seen it once when it all came out. We were watching it the other night, and it's hard for me to understand how only one comes up at a time.
Yeah, they never really went into it. It was like one of those throwaway lines where Jon Favreau's character is like, "We only come out of the shadows one at a time," or something like that.
And I don't understand why, like, how that. I don't know.
How it's a revolving system, Sam.
Is it like a deli counter where they have they pull stickers, like they pull like a number out, and it's like the armor is like, now calling order 31, and then the heavy Mandalorian's like, oh, it's my turn. I get to go up and get a fried Kowakian monkey lizard.
I had a terrible deli line experience in Florida when I was living down there. I don't want to talk about it. It was not. Let's just say we come from a place where you don't necessarily have a deli line, and I didn't really know how the deli line worked, and people were very upset with me that I didn't know how the deli line worked, and people were not in the line. They were just waiting around, and it was very not well put together.
All right, folks. That means in the comment section, you have to badger Matt until he tells us the deli line story next week.
I mean, that was basically it.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is, like, I loved all of the little moments with Mando becoming the character that we see him kind of shift into. So, you know, having him be this lone gunslinger in the very first episode where he's going off on his own journey, he does kind of save Horatio Sands' character, the unnamed Mithril.
Yeah.
But it's for his own personal benefit.
Yeah.
Him zapping the space walrus, I loved. IG-11 you mentioned. Beautiful. Well done. We see those droids in the Clone Wars. The way the articulation is on that model that they do in live action was phenomenal. And the comedy was well done because it's based on situational dialogue, and I think that's why I like Star Wars dry humor, especially from The Empire Strikes Back and the original Star Wars films.
Yeah. Well, and even that, like, bringing these actors who really seem to fit into like Carl Weathers, I think is an actor who I hadn't I grew up in an era kind of after Carl Weathers was popular.
Same.
And so, like, I had never really seen a lot of him. Like, I'd like caught glimpses of him with my parents, like watching movies. But...
Happy Gilmore was what I knew him from, with the wooden hand. Like, how can't you forget that?
Well, and that's the thing. And so it's like, and him coming in, it's like, okay, so he's gonna, and like, it's like, okay, maybe, and you see the look and all this stuff, and we'll get into talking about him in season 2. But I think that he's a great character, and I really love him. I mean, I bought the pop, and you have the Lego figure. Yeah. So I think he's a great character.
Yeah, and he's. At first, I was, once again, a little taken out of it, and then I slowly got back into believing the story, because when you see a guy like him, it's like, oh, okay, that's Carl Weathers. You don't, like, necessarily picture him in Star Wars, like you said, and his acting is so campy, but it's perfect for Star Wars.
And his voice is just all the time. It's just like...
It's over the top.
It's like Lando. It's like...
Exactly. But it fits super well, especially for what his character is. That's the reason that I didn't like the Horatio Sands unnamed mithril character, is because it was over the top and unnecessarily over the top.
Yeah, and that scene is very different with like him being able to get into the weapons locker, and you wonder like why Mando lets him wander through his ship and do all that stuff.
I think he just wanted a reason to freeze him in carbonite.
Yeah, and which is I guess do you think we're gonna see that carbon freeze chamber come into play?
We have to. It's set up. They don't make these decisions.
We'll see. But you talked about that those first 3 episodes being a little tiny. Like they set up the mithril being frozen in episode 1 and episode 3 with Carl Weathers, that he shoots the carbon freeze chamber and it uses the steam to kind of mask him. So in my book, that uses it in the full circle.
That's fair.
It's there. I love the theories though that they're going to use that he's just going to freeze Baby Yoda in the chamber just so he doesn't have to babysit him any longer.
Yeah, that's
fair.
Well, I mean, it's better than having to put up with him steering the ship all the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, I think it's there and it's established that they can use it. It's fair game. So I feel like we'll eventually see. Maybe not season 2. Maybe season 3. We'll see it later on down the line.
Yeah, that's fair.
What were your expectations going into it versus what it was?
As a complete season, it challenged me to see new things in Star Wars.
I agree, 100%.
And there are things that I don't really. There's episodes I don't really care for. Like for me, the Mudhorn episode is kind of at the time, and even now, it was a little bit like, okay. I mean, I get like the Mudhorn. I get like I think it's funny the Suga thing with the Jawas, but like. And my favorite part of that episode is him throwing the Jawa off the sandcrawler for some reason. I don't understand why. But
I love that episode, honestly, and that's why I love that we can sit down and talk about this, because we all have different opinions, and that's the fun part about sharing our thoughts like this.
Yeah, and we'll do a Last Jedi conversation, in which one of us will walk out. Like,
no, we won't.
Welcome to 60 Minutes. One of us is going to walk out.
I love that episode because it's just so different. And at first, like I said, it's hard to get into, but then once you accept it as being part of the story, I ended up loving it. I love the fact that he has to go and get this egg, this hairy, gross egg, which is so weird, strange.
And he's killing the mother so that he can get her egg for these Jawas to...
Space rhino that lays eggs. Like, it's just so different, right? Yeah. But it's like typical Star Wars storytelling. It's like beautifully done, in my opinion. And I love it because, specifically, Mando is not a superhero. He is an average guy. And slowly in the first season, that is uncovered when he takes the helmet off the end. I mean, I was still wondering if they would do anything differently with him.
You mean when he takes off the helmet in front of that giant window of kids in the 4th episode, and he's just staying there in the dark eating his food, but all the kids are right in front of him?
Not creepy at all.
Well, it's like, I just love it. I'd love it if like one of those kids just turned around and was like, oh, look, the little kid, his dad has his helmet off.
Yeah.
Like,
it's one of those plot holes that everybody points to, but
it's just fun to make fun of.
It is.
I understand.
It's just one of those things.
It looks really cool, and I'm not going to complain about it.
I think it was about the shot. Like looking through the lens, I don't think they were considering necessarily the story perspective of that at the time. But what I would say is I loved that he just got so beat up that episode. All right, so our setup just crashed. So we're back, and I was talking about Jawas
and their ability to kick some ass.
Yes. So we always look at Jawas as being like easy to take out, like who could, anybody could pretty much hop on a slow-moving sandcrawler and dispatch all these Jawas, but Mando gets beat up. And it's funny when he's shooting them from afar with his rifle, and they're just disintegrating in midair.
And then they're just shooting their electric guns like
randomly. It's like Star Wars Battlefront when you don't know where they're coming from and you're just randomly shooting, like, ah!
Well, it's like how far? What's the range on those like stun gun? Like those?
They're nothing. They're like it's worse than a shotgun. I just like that he gets beat up in that episode, and that we view our heroes as being these tough guys. When we look at Marvel movies too, or DC films, when we see our heroes on the screen, we imagine that they can take out anybody, and it's cool to see him be stripped of that and just be a normal guy who's trying to make his way through the galaxy. I mean, that's why I personally like that episode. I also like the symbolism, and I'm serious when I'm saying this, between the egg that Mando goes after and the Prim from Baby Yoda. Because when Mando sees it in the third episode, right? It's destroyed, it's in the garbage heap. He imagines, this is my headcanon, I think he imagines the Jawas ripping open that egg when he sees that, just as the Empire rips open the Prim with Baby Yoda inside. I love that he might imagine that in his own head and be like, I gotta take him out. I really enjoyed that it felt like a complete arc. The first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
It almost felt like a Clone Wars arc, being that we have these Mandalorians flying around at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it does. It was hard to go into that 4th episode wondering what's going to happen, who's going to pick it up. I like the 5th episode as much as I when I first saw it, I was like, what is this thing with the Tatooine?
Yeah.
What is... But the more I watch it, the more I realize it's hopefully a setup, and I think it really helps grow him, and it talks about him and Navarro fighting the bounty hunters, all that stuff. So I think it's really cool to see that part of the story, but the episodes 4 and 6 don't really have that kind of... It's hard to gauge where they are in the storyline.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they don't see the 5th episode as being something that is going to connect into season 2. Now, I think maybe more with the trailers and the way they're showing Tatooine more and more.
Yeah.
But for me, I rewatched the whole series. I was on another podcast. Shout out to the Darth Chaco podcast. Yeah, go check it out. But I rewatched the whole series. And honestly, when you binge it, those middle 3 episodes do kind of feel like a cohesive act. The amount of times that I noticed they say the word trust in the entire first season is crazy. Because Mando is learning who he can and can't trust. I think he has trust issues as a character, being that he doesn't trust droids, being that he has a very sketchy past. Of course, we see that in the 6th episode with the other bounty hunters, when it comes to trusting people and knowing who he can rely on. And I think that the message is you can always rely on the people who kind of have the most maybe moral values in mind that are likened to your own. Because it feels like when he's with Kara, there are a lot of things that he can relate between himself and her. He sees Kuil and comes to respect him, but he gets help along the way. And that Semblance A-team at the end is what kind of hits it home for us.
That's what was rough, watching the season as it went on, wondering, okay, when's this gonna, because all the advertising and
they're all together.
Yeah,
IG-11's dead.
I think talking about these middle 3 episodes, I think that it is. I never thought about it that way, as watching that as seeing them as an act, and I think that it is really cool to see his growth. As much as it's kind of weird about the 6th episode, I think I do enjoy watching that, him coming back to his past. It's kind of like going back to the place where he went to high school.
Yeah,
and totally. It's going back and seeing, oh man, there's those guys. That's my old flame. There's the guy who's the brute who used to beat me up, and all this stuff. It's oh well.
And they're the same, but I'm different.
Exactly.
And realizing that is really cool.
Yeah, and I have these, and so I think that's really neat to see that, that kind of growth in Mando, and be able to. And also the end of it with the X-Wing pilots. I love that.
That was an awesome cameo.
I watched the final episode of The Gallery the other day just because I had kind of missed the end of it, and I rewatched the entire thing, and then talking about the connections and how they filmed that with the X-Wing that you and I saw in Galaxy's Edge.
Which is crazy that we actually got to see that. That's a whole other podcast. We can talk about Galaxy's Edge.
I can't wait to talk about that Galaxy's Edge. But yeah, so I think that episode stands on its own, and I'm really interested to see in season 2 where we see those characters, if we see them, when we see them, and that whole thing. So
no, I agree. I think we will see them again because it left us wanting more of them. They're all in the jail cell. Somehow, Clancy Brown's character survives the door
with a broken horn.
Were they both broken, or was it just the one? I don't remember.
I didn't even. I just started that episode in my rewatch. So.
It's so quick, but it left you with the feeling that they would come back because they are still alive. He didn't kill them because that's not the honorable Mandalorian way. Mm-hmm. And I think that slowly throughout the series, you also do realize that, too, that being a Mandalorian isn't necessarily a race like we see in the Clone Wars or Rebels, but more of being an honorable man and doing the right thing.
Yeah. I was just thinking about maybe, you said talk about Mandalorians and Clone Wars, maybe the Mandalorians don't take their helmets off because they, like, don't know how they're going to do the makeup for, like, the strong, chiseled eye. How do we cut, like, the goatees into, like, a square, and, like, and, like, draw the lines on them? Like all the Mandalorians have these, like, lines in their heads that look like Boba Fett's armor.
The gallery, Season 2 of the Mandalorian gallery, we see more Mandalorians in Season 2. We brought this team of makeup artists in to make them look exactly like the Clone Wars. We had hairstylists come in.
All these TikTok makeup tutorial girls.
Beautiful.
No, not any downplaying to any TikTok makeup girls out there. In case you're watching this,
keep doing your stuff. We love you.
It's your content, just like we're making our content.
Yeah, exactly. They make these story decisions based on something that is purposeful, and whether we see it now or we see it later, it comes out in a visual dictionary someday, I'm sure, as to exactly what happened during the Great Purge. Exactly why their way is the way it is, and the differences between now and then are more clear. Because I just feel like they're being very purposefully unclear to make you want to watch more, which I don't mind. I like surprises. I like figuring out things as we go along, but it's hard to watch it like that when you don't know.
Yeah, like the Darksaber at the end.
Yeah. How does he get it? Where does it come from? How did he kill Bo-Katan?
He's like the boots at the end of
the 5th episode.
Clink,
clink, ching, ching.
I watched that the other day. When I watched that last night, actually, I couldn't believe how far. Like in my mind, I thought it was just the boot. Like you just saw the boots walk up. But like you see like the legs and the hand reach down. I'm like, in my mind, I'm just like, that's Boba Fett. I don't see any other character at this point that it could be, other than Boba or Cobb Vanth. Either one.
It sounds weird. At first, I thought it was Moff Gideon.
Oh, I did too. I was like, man, they're on Tatooine. Okay, cool, but like Moff Gideon, we haven't seen him yet. So
yeah, no, I just thought it was him because, like you said, we haven't seen him yet at that point in the series, and it felt like that he would be tracking down Mando for getting Baby Yoda. We know that he or the child. By the way, if you call it Baby Yoda or the child, it doesn't matter. Let's just call it what everybody wants to call it.
Dear writers and producers of The Mandalorian, Season 2, please give us a name in which we can call so we can...
No, I don't want a name. That takes the fun of it away. I had this discussion with someone else recently. I just feel like if they gave us a name, it would never live up to Baby Yoda.
Okay, then can we call him Yoju? Yoda Jr. Baby Yoda. Yoju, if you will. Shout out to the Steele Wars podcast.
He loves you.
I may or may not have a Your Snoke Theory Sucked sticker on the back of my water bottle.
Anyways, if I could pick, now this is more or less Season 2, predictions, theories, thoughts. If I could pick, if I was Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, I would want it to be none other than Cad Bane. I want to see Cad Bane, live action, old man Cad Bane.
My hope and dream for Cad Bane is that he's going to come back in the Bad Batch and teach them how to be bounty hunters.
That would be really cool.
And I think that's a way for him to be.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I've always seen since his arc was taken out of Clone Wars season 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever
it was.
Yeah, I really think his story now is, because Rebels we got to see most of the other thread lines from Clone Wars, but in my book I think that he is one of the biggest threads that's kind of left hanging after, because you see what like in the books you see what happens to Asajj, like, and Cad Bane's kind of that big character that we kind of just don't know about. He hasn't shown up since then, as far as I know. Yeah. So
except for that one celebration where you see the footage of him getting shot and Boba Fett getting shot at the showdown at high noon.
Yeah, and but I don't think
that's not canon though.
So like it's tough to see.
I just want an answer, like you. I just want an answer for the character, and that's why I think it would be really cool to bring him, since Mandalorian focuses on bounty hunting and everything, to see him actually come into a live-action version of the show. They probably won't do it. It's so easy to put Boba Fett in, right? And I think that's why I don't want it to be Boba Fett. Somewhere deep, deep down, I know they'll do it right. I know they'll do it justice, but it's just too easy for me to think it's Boba Fett.
It'd be great if it was just Boba Fett, and then like they kill him off again in 30 seconds. Like I feel so bad for those Boba Fett fans who are like just waiting their whole life for Boba Fett to come back and be badass, and then he just like
it's finally his moment.
And he's just around the Sarlacc again, and someone else hits his jetpack.
Well, that's the funny thing about Boba Fett, right? We never really got to see Boba Fett in his full force, like as a really cool character. He just looks cool all the time. I think we've seen Mando be so much cooler in Mandalorian armor than Boba Fett. Boba Fett looks like he's epic. He has so many trinkets and gadgets on him. But we never got to see him in those original Star Wars films do anything that we should regard him for.
Well, even his dad, we got to see Jango do so much stuff in episode 2.
I agree. I think we got to see Boba be more of a character in Clone Wars. I loved what he did from what we saw, and I'm sure they would have done so much more with him.
I think about that arc, between the arc with him and Mace, you saw so much growth in him as a character, and like being able to overcome that, not really overcome, but like,
No, it is overcoming, really, because he has this hatred towards one guy who killed his father, yes, but that doesn't mean that your actions are justified in what you go to do in order to make revenge plots against him and blow up starships.
but then you I guess it is. I never thought of him as a foil versus Maul in Clone Wars. So you look at like difference between him
fair.
And like Maul and his entire storyline is just wanting revenge against Obi-Wan.
I think Boba reconciles it at some point. We don't necessarily see it, but he's not going after Mace in every other episode. But Maul, that's all he wants. I think you're right. You're definitely onto something.
And even in Rebels, his main drive just to get Ezra is just to find Kenobi.
Yeah.
And so
until the end, when he finally realizes what's going on,
that Ezra's the chosen one.
Yes.
Moral of the story.
Once again, you heard it here, folks. I love our tangents. They're so much fun.
I've been listening to a lot of things where people talk about Ezra being like in episode 5 when Yoda says there's another, and people are like, "Oh, it's Ezra." And then in episode 6 they say it's very clearly Leia.
Yeah.
And then people are like, "No, it's still Ezra." Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I love Rebels. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that it affects the saga as much as something like, especially Clone Wars, where you see those main characters. I think Rebels is nice. It has a nice little bow on it with some open threads at the end for the characters. Mm-hmm. But, people say, oh, I want a sequel Rebels series. I don't think we'd ever get a sequel Rebels series because we already know what happens to the characters, really. They're all kind of different. They're all set on their own path. Sure, we could see an Ezra Sabine series, but I don't see it becoming an Ezra, Sabine, Ahsoka, Rex, and Zeb series.
They have to tell the story of Ahsoka and Sabine finding Ezra and Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
And
which kind of gets into Mando a little bit.
Yeah, well,
potentially.
That's what I was just going to segue into. Do you have anything else about episodes 7 and 8 before we go and talk about it? Because I think this does leave
yeah, no, I think when it comes to episodes 7 and 8 of Mandalorian Season 1, that I liked it. It was really good action. It was emotional storytelling with Kuiil. I liked that.
And IG-11 dying?
Yes.
Dying.
Exploding. Taika's performance, wonderful.
And they could have 1,000 other IG somewhere.
Yeah. I thought it was well done. But personally, like I said, I love those first 3 episodes so much better. I think they're tighter for me. I know that's probably a controversial idea. Here's why I have not a problem with it, but something that I've questioned. Was Mando supposed to be 1 season? Because I think he could have very well died at the end of that last episode, mm-hmm. where they take his helmet off and they save him. He could have very easily died. I don't know what would have come of Baby Yoda. Maybe they could have a whole series just like about what happens to him.
Well, and they could have said I honestly in that moment thought,
or it becomes a title or something like that.
Like the Mandalorian. I thought, okay, well that means the child is the Mandalorian now because he was found. Like they say, Mandalorian's not a race; it's a creed. Like all this stuff. So like he is now the Mandalorian and he's carrying on Din Djarin's story.
Legacy.
And then Cara Dune becomes the lead or whatever. Like that's why I thought. I was like, oh well, this is what's. And I was perfectly fine with that. I love series that do that.
They throw your expectations out the window.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and that's I'm a big Walking Dead fan in the off season when Star Wars, because it kind of lines up with Star Wars. Like Star Wars' main seasons are like opposite of The Walking Dead. So I'm, and in that show and its spin-off shows, they introduce you to characters and they expect you to, you get really invested when it starts off, and then you're like, oh, well, this isn't the main character. This is the main character. And it's like, and I think that's one of those things I was like, oh, well, it's very risky for Star Wars to do that, but it's really cool.
No, I agree. The reason I say that is because I thought his arc was complete. I think he accepts the fact that droids aren't all evil and all of those things, and he understands what it means to be Mandalorian. Now I don't know where his arc's gonna go in season 2.
Yeah.
For that character. I think it's cool to see him get a jetpack. It's cool to see Moff Gideon with the Darksaber. And I will say, that is such a marvel after the credits scene with him cutting open the tie, the Jawas scurrying about. And they're so quick on that wreckage too. I love that. But
and that's what
it's such a Marvel ending.
Well, could you imagine if the difference between that or if they'd done that in the first scene of episode 9? Or it's chapter 9, like after the first episode of season 2. Good job, you killed the main villain. And then the opening scene's like he cuts up and like the we've had this hype now for a year where we can think about, oh man, the Darksaber, like where did it come from? And I love that, able to build up the hype of like,
it's masterfully done.
Oh yeah. And I freaking love Moff Gideon. I mean, he's such a great character.
Yeah. When I rewatched it, I thought to myself, he almost reminds me a little bit of Thrawn. Just a little bit. But he's more physical about it. He will get his hands dirty. He will go to the scene of the crime and he will try to get the child. Whereas Thrawn is very calculated. I think Gideon's the same way. But Thrawn is much more regal. He cares about his appearance a little too much more.
I think so. What you're saying is you think they're going to tie him up and they're going to like unmask him and it's going to be Thrawn like a Scooby-Doo villain. Like, Jinkies gang. So like the child is like Scooby-Doo and like the Mandalorian is Shaggy and they're just like... and it fits it, and then Cara
perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. And if you want to do any art, feel free to send it in, and we.
That was so random. I love it though.
Moff Gideon is Thrawn.
Yes. Yeah. Do fan art. We want to see fan art. I feel like Moff Gideon, like Thrawn, understands like the knowledge about these characters and who they are and why they will make the decisions that they will and how he can head them off before that happens and when to attack them at just the right moment, how to bait them in, because he comes along out of the shadows and is like, oh yeah, Cara Dune, you were a rebel shock trooper, you did this and this on this battlefield, Mando, your people were yada yada yada, here's the complete history of the E-Web blaster.
Grief Karga, you used to be a judge. Like, it's like, what?
Well, he's the magistrate of the city, which I didn't realize in the first watch. He's not only the bounty hunter guild leader, he's the magistrate of this like town that he established. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting to think about Grief Karga as like an imperial, like, because you think of the client as being like the imperial presence on Navarro, not. So it's interesting to think about Grief.
Was
Karga.
Grief Karga ever allied with the Imperials?
Yeah, it said former Imperial Magistrate Grief Karga.
Did he really? I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that Imperial title makes a difference.
Yeah.
Huh.
Disgraced Imperial Magistrate Grief Karga.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering, not to get too technical, I wonder if that means that because he was the magistrate, rather, is it just because he's an Imperial space that he's the Imperial magistrate of the town? Or is it because he was more or less a part of the Empire that he was sent to this place to be the magistrate? I think that could be clarified in later episodes.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
He definitely flunked out of the academy if he was a real Imperial. Like, there's no way he...
I think it's the first Thrawn book when it follows his story and Arenda Price's story, like Governor Price's story.
Yeah.
And because she came from like a highly aristocratic family,
yes.
Like you know, like they talk about Imperial governors being from highly like aristocratic families and just kind of getting the job. Mm-hmm. So it's like, did Grief Karga come from a place where he was like, he just got the job just because he was just in power in the place, and they're like, oh, well, the Empire came in, we know we can't beat you, so have this title and you're in charge still, but you have to follow our rules. Or
that's a fair point.
Yeah.
No, that would make a lot of sense. And I think they could definitely establish that either in this series or books, comics, other media. And I would like it to be highlighted in the series. I'm not the biggest fan of when they have to give like the best parts of a character's backstory in a random novel or comic.
Emperor Palpatine episode 9.
I see where you're coming from, and I love that idea. I really do. I like that we can talk about this because Sam has read like all the books. I've read a few of them. By the way, the best way to consume Star Wars novels is through audiobooks.
Oh, I love Audible.
So Audible, if you would like to sponsor this podcast, we are here. We are ready and waiting.
Yeah, I love Audible. I already pre-ordered the High Republic books and the Certain Point of View Empire Strikes Back book, and I'm so excited for it.
Yeah.
Just like and like the sound effects, all that stuff. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I just love when the male reader has to read female lines, and it feels kind of awkward at first, but you get used to it.
Well, and I hadn't even read comics are the place where I'm kind of iffy on.
See, I love the comics. I have bought pretty much all of the new Star Wars Marvel canon comics. I love them because it takes you on a journey that you would have never imagined going on through a visual medium, where novels I can appreciate because you're trying to imagine what it looks like in your own head.
Yeah, but I was gonna say because like they have the Afro audio drama, and so I just went through that about a month and a half ago or whatever, and that was really cool because like I'd never read the Afro books or the comics, so then I was like, oh well, this is a really cool story. Like I never thought like there'd be a Mon Calamari General Grievous coming in here and fighting Darth Vader. Spoiler alert! But
you have to read those comics; they're so good.
It's very different. So or listen to the audio drama, which is really good too. And like it's like. And so
here it is. Here's the ultimate. Read the comic at the same time you're listening to the audio drama. That is just a whole new level of absorption.
Which they probably expect you to do. I bought the comics. I bought the first 2 volumes of the comics. There's stories right now, like in the Darth Vader comic right now. They're doing the storyline about him finding trying to find Padme after Episode 5. Like. I think that's a really awesome story, and after just reading Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril, it's like...
If it's together.
Oh, yeah, Sabe and all that story. Like, do I want to see Rick Olay fight Darth Vader? Of course I do. Coruscant, the entire planet's a giant city. Well, look, that little droid did it!
Rick Olay was like... I know I wasn't necessarily... I was like 3 years old when Phantom Menace came out, but... Rick Olay was supposed to be, like, the lead, like, one of the main characters of the prequels, it felt like, from the marketing of that film. And then he comes out, he's, like, in 2 scenes. It's like...
Yeah. In case you don't know who Rick Olay is, he's the Queen's Starship pilot. That's...
In The Phantom Menace, episode 1.
Yeah. And that he just has the most... He's overacts every line, and I love it.
Yeah. He's just one of those characters where, like we said, Greef Karga... Very campy, Rick Olay, very campy acting. Anyways, back to Mando.
If you've stuck around this long, thank you very much for dealing with us for this long.
They're loving this, Sam. This is what podcasting is. The ending was well done. The character arc was wrapped up. Like I said, where do we go next? So, we can talk about Season 2. We can get into our own theories, rumor mill stuff. If you don't want spoilers... You can stick around. You know.
We don't know anything.
We don't really know what's definitely going to happen. Yeah.
It's great because there's not really a whole lot going. There's not any unlike Episode 9 where I pretty much knew the entire plot going into Episode 9, and you were the same way with Force Awakens.
Yeah, I knew exactly every single plot point of Force Awakens, and that's a different way to absorb a film and to especially encounter it for the first time because you're trying to instead of pick out like what are the new things that are happening, what matches the leaks that you heard versus what you're seeing on the film and whether or not it's exact or not.
Well, that was the thing. I remember you telling me that like I don't know, 6 months before Force Awakens that Han Solo died. I was like, okay, well, let me absorb that for 6 months now and not know any context at all.
I wrote in letters all the spoilers, and for all the people that didn't believe me, I sealed the letters in the envelope before the movie came out. I handed them the letter and said, open it up after the movie. I knew it all.
And I was so cool though to listen to the speculation for Episode 9 because it was changing so much.
Oh yeah.
And Episode 9 was like there were some theories where I was like, man, this is really strange, but okay, I'm going to roll with it.
It's hard to match together, and there's certain pieces of the puzzle. That's the fun thing about leaks and spoilers and stuff. The pieces of the puzzle that go together that make up the overall story and filling in the gaps of how they actually get from one place to the next.
Oh, yeah, and like it was really interesting. Like I remember calling you one night. I was living in Montana, and I was like, Matt, there's rumors right now that Rey is Han Solo's estranged daughter, and that he went and had an affair during, and he dropped her off, and that's why. And I was like, this sounds cool, but like, will Star Wars ever do? And it's like such a weird kind of. And so, there's not really any spoilers for this season 2.
No.
I mean,
they've kept their cards close to them with the trailers too. There is nothing that, and we've talked about this personally, but there's nothing in the trailers that is really like set in stone for what's going to happen from a story perspective.
Oh yeah, and
that we don't already know.
And there were rumors going into season 1 of Mando that I heard where they said rumors that they've made a lot of Yoda puppets, and like that they're like, oh maybe.
See, I never heard that rumor, or it went in one ear and out the other. Because when I saw Baby Yoda for the first time, I was like, whoa, this is awesome.
Well, in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, so maybe there'll be an episode where they run into a colony of Yodas. And I was like, that was fine. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
Because they had so many puppets.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll be perfectly fine with that. Like, whatever. And then the same thing, though. We got to the episode, and I was like, oh my gosh. They're doing a Baby Yoda. Like, it's just like out of left field. So I'm hoping to have another one of those. Maybe these rumors of these characters that are coming in, whether it's Boba, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, whoever, that maybe this is just a redirect of something, because there were rumors going into this, like, oh, we're going to see the formation of the First Order. Okay.
That wasn't a rumor. That was said by Jon Favreau himself before the season aired. It was in the description, right?
It wasn't in the description, but it was when they did the
I think it was
premiere.
Hinted to.
When they did the premiere, I remember they did...
I think it was like before the First Order, like...
Maybe, yeah. And talked about like how Jango and Boba weren't Mandalorians, but...
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. And so it will be interesting to see that part, like what kind of stuff they pull out. If there are any kind of misdirects or things that we think that like they've like shake. It's like a cat toy. They've like shake this toy in front of us. And
we heard the jingle.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at this, but then sweep from the side, something else is going to come. Like we're not going to.
Yeah. Well, so. When I think of something like that, what I immediately think of is Rebels, because to me, when we first saw Rebels, the first season of Rebels, it was just like, okay, we're on Lothal. Pretty much. That's about it.
It's like you get Grand Moff Tarkin. Congratulations. Like,
yeah, and you felt like you graduated at the end of that. We get Ahsoka, we get Darth Vader. We're just open up into this big world. The Darksaber feels like that for me in the ending of this season. It's like, okay, we graduated. We can be on the next level now. These characters have been put through a lot, and they've grown. Now we can see how they face against the bigger threat, the incoming threat of what the First Order is going to be. And to see how that's necessarily formed, I think will be cool. I don't know how far or deep they will go into it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Snoke or Palpatine or anything.
No,
like
I wouldn't want to.
I wouldn't mind seeing Brendel Hux. I think that like
that could be fit in well.
Yeah, like, and Brendel Hux is Armitage Hux. Armitage Hux is his son, who's in the sequel trilogy, the red-haired guy.
He gets pushed around a lot.
Yeah, but Brendel Hux is his father, who is supposed to be this fat, ugly guy who is like who starts the whole stormtrooper training stuff.
This is basically a lot of it's covered in the Aftermath novels
and in the Phasma novel too.
Yeah,
the Phasma novel is
which I haven't gotten to.
Oh, it is so good, and it is like it's a one-off story that has nothing to do with like pretty much. It gives you a really good view into General Hux from the sequel trilogy, but other than that, Captain Phasma, the one who you read in that story, is nothing like the Captain Phasma in the movies, but. It's an amazing story. I highly, highly recommend that. I remember listening to an audio when I was driving, and it's amazing. So.
Yeah, and it's one of the stories like you were kind of alluding to that is so different, like The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. I like that we can go somewhere else in the galaxy that we've never been before, even away from the Skywalker saga. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I forgot. It introduces Vi Moradi from Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
There you go.
So if you're interested if you've been to Galaxy's Edge or you've heard about Galaxy's Edge, the gal with the orange jacket and the blue hair.
Yeah.
She's introduced in that book, and then she's in the Galaxy's Edge book, and then she's at Galaxy's Edge. So I'd recommend that. It's like a whole series. So
yeah.
Anyway,
there you go.
Yeah,
we're expanding your Star Wars knowledge.
Something like that.
What are your thoughts about the trailer from season 2 of The Mandalorian. Which, there's really only one trailer, because it's the same exact footage, practically.
Oh, I laughed so hard that night we stayed up for Monday Night Football for an exclusive look into season 2 of The Mandalorian. And we got...
When I said exclusive look, I was like, is this going to be like how when they did the episode 7, and I think they did it for 8, the behind the scenes, like, here's what we're filming, rather than like, here's a look at the footage.
There was one more scene in it that we hadn't seen before, and that was the
troop carrier.
Yeah, that was like the teaser for the teaser. And anyway.
Well, if you don't know, if you haven't seen the trailer, or if you have, we're talking about the troop carrier, which is seen in Star Wars Rebels, which I like seeing in live action.
Oh, yeah, and the original Kenner toy.
Yeah, I think it's so cool to, have something like the Sandcrawler or that set, which has been around forever, especially for older fans who can appreciate a lot more than we even can, in action, in a high definition version of what that can be, and actually see how it articulates. But we see the unnamed Mithril back.
Yeah,
with Cara Dune and Greef Karga.
Yeah. I saw someone online saying, what if they just digitally dubbed his face over someone else's? Like, what if it's Bo-Katan that they broke out of that?
Please, no.
And they
Please, no.
What, you don't want to see Bo-Katan come back?
No, it's not that I don't want to see Bo-Katan. I just don't like...
You don't want them to Hulk Infinity War.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you insert the best scene into a trailer that's not actually in the actual film to mislead people, and then just never talk about it again, that's just not fair. That would have been the best scene in the film.
Yeah. Well, if he is actually in the show, which there's been products like they're making the pop,
yeah,
and there's been standees of him, so I think he is coming back. But I do think it would be cool if he is more grounded as a character. If he's like
actually has some substance to him.
Yeah, and I think that'd be cool to have a character come back, kind of like. I don't know, like a character that I'm trying to think of characters like a throwaway character. You think is a throwaway, like maybe like Vizago in Rebels, or even Hondo. Like Hondo, you think
Hondo's definitely that character, yeah.
Like you think, okay, well maybe he's just in one episode, we're never gonna see him again. And then he's pops up through everything, and now he's like a main
prominent member of Galaxy's Edge, and
unless you're some guy that I read on some comment section somewhere that yelled about him being the stupid alien Johnny Depp character that is now taking
Depp
over.
Character.
They were like, why isn't Han Solo in Galaxy's Edge? They're using this dumb Johnny Depp alien character. And I was
he's an old dude at that point. He's not even.
And I was like, well, this takes place in episode 8 era, and Han Solo's dead. Sorry to ruin your. I don't know.
People aren't following it as close as we are. They're just taking their kids, man. They haven't seen the prequels yet.
It's stuck in a cryo freeze since 1983, and
they haven't accepted like that Hayden Christensen plays Anakin and is not that other actor. What's his name? Do you
Sebastian
Stan?
Not Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is the Winter Soldier.
His name is Sebastian.
I'm not gonna remember it. But I always think it's
it'll pop on the screen right now. There it is. Perfect.
Yeah. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Movie magic.
Sebastian. Me.
Well, she's not even Sebastian. Which character were we talking about?
We were talking about the Mithril and
Mithril.
Hondo.
Yes. So I actually want to see him do something, because he didn't really do anything. We didn't get to see him as a character at all. It was just, hey, I want to get back to my family on Life Day. But did he actually, or was he just lying? Like.
And it's interesting. Are they breaking? I've heard a lot of people talking about, are they breaking him out of prison? And that's something that I don't really see. I don't.
Maybe they're not breaking him out of prison, but he gets broken out of prison just like on their way to find Baby Yoda. Because from what I understand the trailer, Baby Yoda is not with them when they're, or at least he's not seen. He's not being carried by them when Mando is meeting back up with Cara Dune and Greef Karga.
Yeah, he's walking down the ramp with a Razor Crest.
Yeah. So wait, Baby Yoda is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe he gets taken to the Imperial base and they have to go rescue him early on.
I don't think that's going to be episode 1, because
I don't either anymore.
And we'll get to that in a minute, but I think Greef Karga's beard change, going from like just a black mustache to a white beard, I think is going to be significant, like some kind of time change. I don't know how, but
maybe he just ran out of his
Just for Men.
Yeah. Salt and pepper. He's changed the look.
It goes from pure black hair and black mustache to white beard and salt and pepper. Yeah, I mean...
Well, the Imperials took him all away. It took all the bottles away.
But he got really nice clothes, though, you know?
Yeah.
This last week, an international page of Disney Plus posted their... what do you call it? Like their whole placeholder...
Preview image for the episode?
Yeah, so they posted the on season, like, you know, like season 1, season 2 tab. They posted the image, like where you would click to say season 2 episode 1. They posted an image of a Weequay in a dusty kind of looking Adobe kind of room with a bar and the Mando talking to the Weequay across the bar.
Yeah, which looks a lot like the cantina.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Tatooine somewhere, and so which leads me to think that somehow Mando's going to Tatooine for the first episode, because they said in the Entertainment Weekly article that Mando season 2 does not have a time skip between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
So in my book, maybe there's a time skip somewhere later in the season, but I don't know.
See, I don't even necessarily think that, like, a beard change warrants necessarily a time jump. I mean, he's been through a lot of stress. His whole town was blown up. He got taken on this adventure. He decided, you know what?
He drank a lot of spotchka.
I agree that I think we are going to start on Tatooine. Wouldn't it be cool in that first episode, which, by the way, is about... Is it 52 minutes?
52 minutes.
That's crazy. This is the longest episode of Mando that we've gotten. The last one, the previous longest episode was what? 49?
Something like that. And that was the...
First episode.
I think it was the first episode. Either the first or the last. No, not the last.
I want to say the first one was more.
The 7th one was pretty long, too.
Yeah.
But...
Anywho. I think we will be going back to Tatooine. This is my prediction. Locking it in. I think we're going to go back to Tatooine, and something will be going on. Not necessarily... The Hutts can't be around, because Jabba's not in charge anymore. But I think the threads of when his sail barge went up in flames, the threads of what that fallout from all the thugs of that group are, and where they go, and how they fit into the galaxy now, will be taken into account, much like... The Aftermath novel explains.
If you haven't read Aftermath, there's the main storyline, which is great. And I really enjoy the main story, like across 3 books.
You've listened to it multiple times, I think.
I haven't, but I've gone back. Like every once in a while, I'll go back and just watch like a YouTube video just to refresh myself, because it's it's becoming more and more of an important story.
Yeah,
covering like everything from pretty much the beginning, like right after Endor through the Battle of Jakku.
Yeah.
But anyway, through the whole thing. What's really, I think, is the best way of story writing. A lot of people don't like it, but I think it's really cool. You get these little interlude chapters, so you get kind of like what the ideas of going on in the galaxy are through the whole timeline, through that whole time. So you get
it's a period piece,
and through each book you get one little chapter, and sometimes you follow a storyline. So there's like one on Masamita and on Coruscant. It's talking about him losing power after the Emperor dies.
But then he's involved in the story in later books.
Yeah, and so like there's like an interlude chapter about him meeting with Mon Mothma to try to like officially surrender the Empire to the Rebellion or to the New Republic. There's an interlude chapter talking about a character. The first one is follows a sandcrawler, and it has this armor that's all acid marked, and it's Mandalorian armor, but doesn't really say it's Boba Fett, but it's heavily implied that it's Boba Fett. And a fellow named Cobb Vanth comes up, and he is a sheriff. I think it explains he's a sheriff, and then and he buys the armor, and then he starts wearing the armor, and then it ends. And then book 2 picks up with Malakili, who is the Rancor keeper from Jabba's palace, and he's running.
What an emotional role that character went through.
Star Wars Explained said they wanted to see him back this season, and I hope it was great, just like a random guy playing Malakili this season.
I also like that it's the only Lego Star Wars figure, or maybe the only Lego figure too, that has a tear on his face.
Moaning Myrtle has one in the new Harry Potter series, but other than that...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, yeah, he's... that's why I said... Oh, no, we didn't put him out. Okay. That's why I suggested...
we could have put Malakili on. Huh?
Yeah. Quick edit, he just magically appears.
Here's Malakili!
Anyway, Malakili's running through the desert, and he gets saved by Cobb Vanth. Long story short, through this books 2 and 3, Cobb Vanth kind of forms this place he calls Freetown, which is a bunch of former slaves, and I believe he's a former slave as well. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing the Mandalorian armor, and he is bringing these people together to make a new society on Tatooine.
Yeah, it kind of felt like an old Western.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like a Tombstone style sheriff type thing. So
yeah,
fighting off the bad guys and the thugs of Tatooine. So
the fallout of what happens when you remove a crime lord from the scene, and where all the bad people that were under him go to.
Yeah, and Droopy McCool becomes a gang lord on.
Who's that?
Droopy McCool? He's in the Max Rebo band.
You heard it here. Wait, is he the bug looking dude?
He's the one who has one eye and plays like the clarinet looking.
I know who you're talking about now. I thought you meant the guy who was added in the special edition. Who's like he looks directly at the camera.
Oh, see, and my first thought was you're talking about the frog guy playing the harmonica, but
no, but he's cool too.
Yeah, but I do think Droopy McCool was on the.
We need an episode. Okay, this is holiday special territory. It's just a one-off. It's an hour-long episode of the Jabba band gets back together. We got old Cy Snoodles coming in.
Well, and
you got Droopy McCool.
And there's a marker as a rest in peace to Max Rebo because he was on the sail barge.
Yeah, but we have this just random new guy. He's the host. He's playing on the red ball chain keyboard.
The red ball chain. But yeah, I do think that would be cool to see some other characters pop up that are on Tatooine, thugs.
Tatooine's one of those places it feels like it's in the middle of nowhere. Like in episode 1, they can stop and refuel there. It felt the same way in season 1 of The Mandalorian. So maybe he needs to stop there and get some fuel, maybe do a job to get some money, and he has to go fight some of Jabba's thugs.
I like the idea, and I've talked about this before, the idea of thinking that he, in the first episode, teams up with Cobb Vanth and and realizes that this guy is wearing Mando armor but isn't a Mando. And he's just a cool dude.
Yeah, and maybe he's a part of that job. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think it'd be cool to see him or he gets saved by him and he's a good guy, and then we don't really see what happens, and then he meets up with him again somewhere, and it's actually Boba wearing the armor again, and he's killed Cobb Vanth off screen, and we don't know, and then he's a villain.
Just goes in a back alley. There's a shadowy fist fight, and then different characters in the armor, and you can totally tell. He walks into his house. He turns the lights on. The lights just all go out. You just hear rustling and fighting.
Yeah.
And then the lights come back on, and it just looks all normal.
Hello, it is me, Cobb Vanth. I'm actually Boba Fett.
I think we have to see Cobb Vanth, or it just doesn't make sense for the canon storyline.
And it's just great seeing characters come to the screen like that are from books that we didn't really think that... I guess Snap Wexley was written into the Aftermath books, but you look at the character of Snap Wexley in the Aftermath books compared to the one on screen, and then you look at episode 9, you're like, his stepdad Wedge just flew in there and watched him blow up and doesn't have any emotion. He's like, nice flying, Lando!
Yeah, it is a bit... It removes you from it when you're so invested in all of the media.
It feels almost like a Legends book at times, because...
I feel a lot of the novels do. The comics do, too. I wish they were more integrated, and that's why I love Mando so much, is because it brings everything together. It brings the prequels into it, it brings Clone Wars, it brings Rebels, it brings the sequels, the vibe of that era, it brings the original stuff, it takes stuff from the books at times, or the comics. It can do that. It is the perfect opportunity for the directors and writers to make all Star Wars fans happy, I guess, when it feels like the fandom is pretty divided at times. That's just my hot take. I think that being that it is so far removed, they have more of an ability to do that.
I think it's pretty solid to have that kind of variety in content where people can... It's great to have this one thing that everyone's kind of behind.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's what was so frustrating through the sequel trilogy, was seeing people that were so divided on the many aspects. And I'm someone who I kind of just try to see the positives through all of it, and it's just it's tough to try to see. And I understand where people are coming from with other things, but it's nice to have something that everyone kind of has agreed that Mando's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And you can show it to... I've been watching it with my mom.
Yeah.
That's really cool. She'll watch Clone Wars and Rebels and all of that, and she likes it. but she really likes The Mandalorian.
Oh, and my dad's the same. Yeah, I watch it with my dad, and it's And my mom asked about it. She's like, "Oh, what's that show that you guys watch on Fridays?" That like
The Mandalorian.
And I'm like, "You guys are logged into my Disney Plus account. You can watch it anytime." Like it's like so.
Yeah, but it is cool. Like I feel like I could show it to my girlfriend. Like I feel like she would enjoy looking at Baby Yoda. Like I feel like there's parts of it that are in the show for everybody, and that's why I think the original, Star Wars trilogy was so well done, is because there were comedic moments, there were romantic moments, there were heroes that everybody felt that they could relate to in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's I'm really excited to see what is season 2 is going to bring about and what's.
I agree, and so okay, I need some hard theories from you. First, I want to talk about. A lot of people are talking about this, so we have to talk about it. We just have to. Is Ahsoka going to be in it? Will Sabine be in it? Will Rex be in it? And will Bo-Katan? Those are the 4. We already talked about Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think Boba Fett is safe to say he will either be in this season or the next one.
Yeah, I think his armor will appear this season.
100%. I will 100% agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't care, and I honestly don't care who would come.
I don't either.
And
I think it would be cool to have Boba Fett as the imposter. If you're playing Among Us, perfect time.
Pop culture insert pop culture reference.
Insert pop. No, I think it would be perfect because Boba Fett is the complete opposite of what Mandalorian is.
Yeah.
Because of he wears the armor. He does not follow the creed. He just looks cool and doesn't really care about anything but himself. Whereas Din Djarin, as the Mandalorian, is the exact opposite. He cares about other people, or that's what his arc kind of concludes with. And he learns to trust other people, whereas Boba Fett is truly a lone gunslinger, and that's all he pretty much ever will be.
And Boba's dad trained him to be a certain, you know what I mean? Like, he
Yes.
grew up with his dad being the way he was, and I think, and with the Kaminoans and all, it's a very interesting background that he has. Like, he doesn't have, like, Din, when Din was raised by the tribe. Like,
Yes.
So
I feel like they're complete opposites.
Which is, I think, would be really cool. And I don't know what I want to see as far as the dynamic between them, because do I want to see him as a villain, or do I want to, like, because I think Moff Gideon's a good enough villain.
Yeah.
But do I want to see them teamed up? I don't want to see them teamed up.
I don't think he would ever team up with Mando. I think it would be one of those things, like I said, I think Mando would try to figure out if he can trust him. And if he can't, then we're going to have an epic brawl at the end of the day. But I don't think Boba Fett's never going to team up with the Empire.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to see him as, and I don't want to see it. He's too much. He's worth too much to me to be a villain of the week.
Yeah, exactly. I think if we see Boba Fett, it's going to be in one episode, and I have the same thought about Ahsoka. I think it's just going to be one episode. I don't think we'll ever see her again. Maybe in later episodes in the series, when they get the A-Team back together again, if that's the theme of it all.
We need someone with a lightsaber experience to combat the Darksaber.
Pretty much. Hey, Ahsoka? Ahsoka phone. It's like Captain America and Iron Man. Should I call Ahsoka?
I do think that it will be interesting, because like we've talked about before, the Mando seems like he's on the trajectory of becoming like the next leader of Mandalore. And the next one to unite Mandalore, because it seems like Dave Filoni has this.
Mandalore doesn't really exist anymore, from what we're kind of led to believe.
Yeah, and I do think there's a scattering of tribes around the galaxy.
I would agree with that.
And I do think that they're pushing towards a reunification. Every single time Dave Filoni seems to do a story, it seems like, we have to reunify Mandalore, right? This story we're gonna.
But then they get ununified, and we don't know how.
Yeah. So it happened. Yeah, it happened with Order 66. It happened with the Empire. And now and that's what. So hopefully, maybe this is like, and I'm hoping too, kind of like side tangent, the High Republic goes to Mandalore too, and we see what Mandalore looks like in that time too. I
think that's a great observation. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I would totally be on board with seeing what pacified Mandalore looks like.
Yeah, if it's large tribes, if they're still riding around mythosaurs, like.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see a mythosaur in this series? I don't know. It's because
the ending would be really cool. Yeah. Because they brought it up. And like I said this before, I don't think directors and writers make decisions that they don't want to follow up on. Everything is just so very specific.
I always think about that the mythosaur is like that in Avatar, when he has, like in the James Cameron's Avatar, when there's that giant red, orange, whatever it is you call it, like the flying thing. when he's like, there's like the legend of it and everything, and then like he's the one that rides it.
Yes.
I think it'd be really cool to have Mando be the one to ride find a mythosaur. If it's like the Zillo Beast and it's the last one,
Yeah,
I don't care.
think that'd be epic. Are you excited to see Ahsoka or Sabine or other characters like Bo-Katan, Rex from animated series? Are you excited to see that?
Well, I don't know. Like, after watching the final season of Clone Wars this year, I really thought...
Which is hard to say, by the way.
Yeah, but we're getting Bad Batch in the spring, so...
Yeah.
It's
tough.
fair.
It's fair.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
I know they're going to do it in the right way. And I just don't see a reason to bring Ahsoka in. Like, I understand that it's easier to bring Ahsoka in than DH Mark Hamill down to do a Luke. But... Hey,
there's been rumor of that.
I love those rumors. Oh yeah, it's Red 5 right next to the Razor Crest. And Red 5 shoots the Razor Crest down and never has anything else to ever do with them again. I understand why they would include Sabine and Ahsoka in there. And if you have Tamara Morrison back to play Boba, why not have him play Rex?
Yeah.
I get that too, but I don't know if I want to see, like, I don't know if I need to see them to like make the story better.
And that's exactly where I come from too. I don't want them to forcibly put the characters in to get someone new to watch it who enjoyed Clone Wars or Rebels and to retroactively negatively affect the character.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Ahsoka as a character ruined in a live action story if she doesn't have to be there. And I need a reason for those characters to be there. See, I see Bo-Katan as being one of the most important characters potentially for the story if they did introduce her in, because she is the symbol of Mandalore, especially after Rebels. I mean, she's the one to hold the Darksaber and to wield it. I think we need to understand where and how Moff Gideon got that Darksaber from her, and I think it would be really cool if they did introduce her back, that, you know, that could be her old enemy that she's trying to get back at. Who took the weapon from her. Oh. Do I necessarily want to see it? Yes. Does it need to be in the story? No.
Well, do you think they're gonna do something? Do you remember in Rebels when Fen Rao tells Kanan the story of the history of the Darksaber?
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna have? I feel like they're gonna have to do another history of the Darksaber. Do you think that's gonna be Bo-Katan that does that, or who do you think is?
She seems like the rightful one, unless the Armorer comes back randomly.
Here I am to give more exposition.
She's just that like wise character randomly appearing at every corner when they need help. See, and that's the thing too. I want Mando to be the main character and to solve his own problems. I don't want everybody to come out of nowhere and solve his problems for him.
And that's what looking at what is Sasha Banks' character that was previewed in the main trailer.
Yeah, which is, it's got to be Sabine. It's just got to be Sam.
Oh yeah, hey, and more power to the fanboys who want it to be her. I mean, if it was, I wouldn't not be excited. I would support it. It just has to be done right. Do I think it's her? No. Well, and I understand the people that are saying, like, as far as like the actress's, you know, ethnic background and the character of Sabine's doesn't, you know, design, sure. And like I understand
she always dyes her hair in her fighting costumes.
I meant to say how they're like Sabine and the actress are different, you know, as far as like looks, and I don't believe that that's something that I think people just see someone of someone like that, an actress like that, and they automatically want to associate her with Sabine, and I think. If she is playing her, great. But I really want to see a character who is different, a new character like we saw with, like Queel. Like I just think Queel was like the coolest character of season 1.
Yeah, I would agree. And to like be so sad about his death, like I never would be so sad about seeing a dead pig. Like who would have known?
Yeah.
But the way they portray it is just so masterfully done.
Even that would have been great though. Like they talked about in the gallery, they screen tested the Queel making the Ugnaught noises.
Yeah, and they realized that the dialogue would be way too difficult to actually like subtitle, and it would take you out of it.
Yeah, they did apparently they did the scene between him and the Jawas, and he was speaking Ugnaught. And like Matt Wood did it, and they just were like, "This is so bad."
No, that would not be good. No, but. And I think that was different too because we never saw an Ugnaught that spoke basic.
Yeah. But yeah, so do you think that what do you think about Rex and Sabine and Ahsoka? What
I think the character that Sasha Banks is playing, it is Sasha Banks, right?
Yes, yeah.
I think it's gonna be. It sounds really crazy, but I've not heard anybody say this. It just came to me right now. What if that's actually a Church of the Force character?
Oh, like Laura Santeca's group? Okay.
And she gives Mando some advice about the child and how to raise him, being that she has a deeper understanding of what the Force is than someone who's more normal in society like Mando.
Yeah, and it's sad that with the passing of Max von Sydow that we couldn't have Laura Santeca come in and do...
That would be really cool if they introduced him back into it.
Yeah, and it's tough. It'd be tough. They'd have to do like a Tarkin thing with him, with Max von Sydow no longer being with us. So they'd have to try to figure a way to,
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from. That'd be a great idea, having her be someone from the Church of the Force or the Sith Acolytes.
Yeah, having the opposite of what Ahsoka would be. So
yeah,
I think maybe that would be even a better way of doing it.
Yeah, like tell Baby Yoda, here, hold this Sith artifact for me.
But he's already force-choking people. He already is learning a lot about violence from Mando and everybody else, so it's no wonder that he's acting that way.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see what happens with her. I think there's a reason that she just magically disappears. It's not just like she slithers away, but...
Actually, she's a part of Obo Rancisis' species.
You didn't see the lower half. It's just a tail.
Let me tell you, he's one of I watched the season of Clone Wars, and he is one of my favorite characters of Clone Wars. I wish he would have gotten his own arc. Like oh my gosh, he's
Sam.
such a cool...
I'm sorry, you can't say that's one of your favorite characters of Clone Wars.
Favorite character designs of Clone Wars.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I really bank a lot on design and animation, and I just love that scene where they introduced him in the Jedi Council. I forget. I think it's the last arc of season 5,
mm-hmm.
and he's in the Jedi Council. And then
I thought it was in season 6.
Oh, maybe it is. And I just know
I don't know what. No, you got me. I'm thinking about it now.
Might have been in the Jedi in like the Yoda arc.
I think it was.
And but then I just remember.
I remember he puts his hand on Yoda. Yes, you're right.
He's talking with Obi-Wan, but I just remember there's a scene where Obi-Wan and Opo Rancisis and I think Aayla Secura are walking down the hallway and that just like seeing him just like slither along and just like go. I was like, that's some awesome. I just want to see him in.
Yeah.
So like maybe he'll be in the Bad Batch series as like, a survivor of Order 66. Just jumping out of trees and attacking stormtroopers with his tail and like.
I don't know how badly I want to see that, but I think it would be. It would be.
That's the go-to
visually interesting.
I'm gonna stop saying we need to see things in Mandalorian. I'm gonna be like, so can we see this is this all gonna be a Bad Batch now? That's what everyone's saying now. So I need to like get on the train.
We don't need to do that. This is not what the show is gonna become.
You heard it here. If you want to insert this into Bad Batch, just let us know who you think is gonna be in Bad Batch.
We do need to do an episode about just Bad Batch at some point.
That'll be in the off season. That'll be
yeah. Well, there's nothing coming out.
Yeah. So I think, and talking about our schedule, looking forward. I think that's gonna be interesting because I think that we have this, and then and then WandaVision comes out.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about that. So,
Fair.
And then we'll be talking about Bad Batch right after that. So
yeah. And this isn't just Star Wars, folks. This is Marvel. This is pop culture. Everything that's coming out.
Yeah, and we have to talk about soon. Matt watched Harry Potter for the first time.
I did. We could do a full episode about that.
Yeah, Galaxy's Edge, Harry Potter. Let us know what you're excited about.
Yeah. Love to hear it.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far, awesome. I'm going to keep congratulating you on making it certain parts of the podcast because
you deserve it. I think if they have Ahsoka in it, I think she would be with Rex by this point in the story. I think that they would have already found Ezra. I think Sabine and Ezra would have already gone off on their own adventure. And I think that Ahsoka would be reunited with Captain Rex. Thoughts?
I think that's going to be in Bad Batch. That Ahsoka and Rex are going to be together. No, I just saw someone today that said, I really want to see an Ahsoka and Rex series on Disney Plus after Clone Wars.
Well, that's what a lot of people were thinking about Mandalorian is if she is only in it for one episode, is that their way of trying to get people excited for a spin-off Ahsoka series?
Do you think an Ahsoka series in that timeline or Ahsoka like a post-Clone Wars?
This is really bad for me to say. I don't want a live-action Ahsoka series. I don't want to see it. I'd rather it be animated. I'd rather it be in the same style as Clone Wars.
But I think in their minds, they're like, well, why do we put all this effort into making the props and making the costume and all this stuff? And
that's fair.
Have you seen the...
I mean, I haven't seen it yet either. And that's the hard part. I'm trying to still put it in my head how it's going to look.
There are... There have been... So in the recent releases of products, I've
seen this, yes.
Okay, you saw the Force X lightsabers with Ahsoka on them. I don't know, and that's in a tint, that's in a blue penciling, so I can't
tell. It's not on the screen. It's not... When it's paired with other characters, that's when I'm like, okay, this is epic, or I'm out.
And that's what would have been interesting if we would have had, like, some places were reporting, like Kessel Run Transmissions was saying that we were going to have an Ahsoka trailer, a trailer with a footage that was only of
in
Ahsoka.
The Mandalorian, yeah.
Yeah, and that would have been nice just to get a tease of it so I could mentally prepare myself. Because unlike The Child, where if you would have seen that in the trailer, you would have been like, oh my gosh, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think with Ahsoka, I would have been like... Oh.
Relieved.
Yeah, like, I would have been relieved, but also, like, I can mentally prepare myself for what this is going to be like.
It makes me nervous. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, when I see characters that I really like Rex, like Ahsoka, and thinking about them and what they could do with the character in a live-action portrayal, it makes me very, very nervous. And I think that's because I've been let down in the past, so I'm not trying to get my expectations up super high. I tend to keep them a little lower. That way, if it's better than it is, then I can be happy. But, you know, it's exciting. At the very least, it's exciting to see another character that came from Star Wars animation, to think about them in a live-action setting like Saw Gerrera.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he was the first character that did that. And then we got Hondo, like we were mentioning, in Galaxy's Edge and everything.
And Saw Gerrera has really gotten his paces as far, like, even for dying in Rogue One. Yeah. He was in, Fallen Order. He's been in the comics. He was in the epilogue of the Solo novelization.
Yeah, the Rebel Rising book with Jyn Erso.
That's such a good book.
Yeah. So, I mean, he got his fair share, I would say. And he was only in just one arc of Clone Wars.
Oh, and he was in Rebels, too. I forgot about that, too.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, it came from Clone Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And to expand that character in the way they did, even though his eyes are a different color.
They darken as the character progresses.
Well,
you know, Sam, it's the same... It's just, symbolism. As the galaxy becomes darkened by the oppression of the Empire, so do the blue eyes of Saw Gerrera.
Or Geonosian gas changed his eyes.
Or that was the case.
According to the visual dictionary of Rogue One. Even though you and I... when we stayed up to watch Ghosts of Geonosis, and that didn't happen.
We literally watched every single episode of the Clone Wars with Saw Gerrera in it.
Watched Rogue One. We watched Attack of the Clones. Everything with Geonosis in it too.
Yep.
And it had nothing to do with
Did we watch the Geonosis arc from Clone Wars? That was a lot of episodes. Wow. That was a lot of time that we wasted. And that was not the best episode of Rebels.
No, I like his second arc in Rebels better.
Yeah, I agree.
The one with the Kyber crystals.
Yeah, I agree. That was a well done episode. I love that last season of Rebels.
Yeah.
That series hit its stride in that final season. Anyways, back to Mandalorian. I want them to do the characters justice, and I don't want this to be a reunion with us seeing characters that don't fit it.
It's like, yeah, come with us. We can go to this planet and meet Zeb and Callus. And
yeah. I mean, that's what it pretty much would become. Like,
yeah.
I want it to be... It's called The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about these characters, and it's not necessarily an Ahsoka Tano story. And I don't want her to take away the screen time from someone like Mando.
And I don't think I want to ever see any of the big characters from either trilogy, for any of the trilogies. I never want to see Luke, Leia, Han, Lando, Chewie. Like, I just don't.
I think we could do Lando. I think we could see Lando, and I would be willing to do that. I would be up for that ride. Because he would fit into it somehow. I feel like in a later season, not season 2. They're not there yet. But when they're talking more about the formation of the First Order, the rebellion and New Republic and how it transitions, I think Lando as a general is a key character in that, but he's also on his own he becomes the new Han Solo. He becomes kind of more of a solo character who goes off on his own adventures throughout the galaxy. He's not pinned down to one place.
Yeah, he has Pisana. He's there for 30 years, living in a tank treader with an ostrich.
Is he actually in Pisana for 30 years?
It was from the time that his daughter was an infant, and his daughter's supposed to be the same age as
So
Jaina.
we literally cannot see Lando unless Mando goes to Pisana. They have all the props.
He crash lands on a desert planet. It's Pisana, and then a tank treader just comes slow. It's like a little dot in the horizon, slowly, like.
And you don't know it's Lando until he takes his helmet off in the end of the episode.
For 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Wookiees stand out in a crowd. Roll credits.
Pretty much.
They just use all the B-roll, all the cutscenes from episode 9 too, with no content. Kind of like I mean, like I understand what they do with Leia, but like they all cut lines from episode 7 they use for Leia. It's like cut lines from episode 9 they use for Lando because they can't get Billy D to come back.
Please don't do that. Okay, now that I think about it, I don't want to see Lando anymore.
Well, and like I was thinking about casting, like how they would do Donald Glover. Would they try to de-age Billy D. Williams? Like,
yeah.
And I understand, like, but I love the Battlefront, like his story in Battlefront 2 with Shriv.
Yeah, okay, so that's where I lose my understanding of how he gets on Pisana for 30 years. Because
he goes there, I mean, that's before Jakku, but after Endor.
It just doesn't meet in the timeline for me, Sam. I'm not seeing this.
You have to, I don't know the exact timeline. I just know he goes with Luke to hunt for Jedi artifacts, and then his daughter is kidnapped by the First Order, and he stays on Pisana.
Okay.
Looking for her. But doesn't leave because
if you know more about it than us, please let us know.
And if you're part of the story group at Lucasfilm, we'd love to for you to.
We'd love to actually just have an interview with you about all of these topics and more.
Yeah, lunch, whatever you want to do. I mean,
treat him to a dinner and a movie. Anyways, solid predictions, crazy, wild theories that you have for season 2.
Okay, well, I do think that we're going to see some stuff that we aren't expecting, and
that's very general, Sam.
Well, I'm thinking about character deaths, like out of the biggest thing is like, because like, you know, surprising moments like tend to be character deaths. Like Queel was a surprising death that I, like, going into episode 7, never thought, oh man, Queel's gonna die at the end. Like I was like, you know, let alone I'm gonna see Queel, oh, and then he's gonna die at the end of this episode, like protecting the child. So I think that with the way the marketing and everything's going,
it's so open. It's very open.
Yeah, and I see the ability for them to kill off Greef Karga. Like, I think that Greef Karga is a character that's really cool, but I just don't see him. His character has kind of gone the full loop. He's learned to go from, like, wanting money, to now he's, you know, realizing that, you know, he saw the child and the child healed him and he was able to become a good guy.
Which is kind of in the same vein of Mando and how he comes to take on carrying the child everywhere he goes and protecting him is because he saves him.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really great way, a good catalyst for them to kind of push off. And he's kind of a character that has to answer to somebody. And if the Empire is still on Navarro, a good way for them to have that kind of push they need to, like, really, like, sure, they killed Queel, but they defeated Moff Gideon, and then, like, oh, Moff Gideon's back. He just
So
killed.
you feel as though that the Empire needs to feel more like a threat.
Yeah, and I think that would be a great way to remind us, especially if we go to Tatooine in episode 1. Oh, well, Greef Karga just got killed by the Empire. Like, not maybe, I don't know if it'd be like Aura Singh killing Commander Pons in Clone Wars. You know, like how she sent the transmission to Mace and, like, was like, oh, well, we're a threat now. We're gonna kill we're gonna kill these clones. You know what I mean? Like, if I was thinking, like, in my first iteration of it in my mind was like, oh, well, they sent a transmission to Mando and say, oh, we have your friends here. Here's Cara and Greef, and then, like, Moff Gideon kills Greef with.
I mean, that would be good from a story perspective. I think that would be really cool. I don't think that's the way they're going to go based off of what the trailer has, though.
Yeah, and that's what I don't know. I don't have a good feeling for Greef Karga. Okay. That's my biggest. I don't.
No, that's fair. That's very fair because, like you said, and like I was thinking about Mando and why I thought he was going to die is because his story does come full circle, and I think that season 2 really has to set up the characters, and I'm sure they will, with where they're headed to next. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard for us to gauge what's going to happen in season 2 because it feels like the characters have already kind of hit their stride. And I think that it would be cool to see Grief Karga in more of a sacrificial place, being that he has come full circle.
Yeah, and Carl Weathers is directing an episode this season, so I'm wondering if that's, because people have suggested, like, oh, well, since Dave Filoni's directing a certain episode, maybe that's
the Ahsoka episode.
Yeah, and so maybe if Carl Weathers is directing an episode, maybe that's the episode he dies. I don't think that they're going to kill Cara Dune off.
No, I don't see that happening
There's too much fan base behind her and stuff, but...
Weren't they talking about her getting her own series, too, at some point?
With Bo-Katan?
I don't want to see it. I don't care to see it.
Even if they build it up, I don't really see much of a...
No.
I don't know.
I just want a reason. And that's not me being a sexist saying, oh, because that's what people will say.
Oh, yeah.
That's just us from a perspective of saying, like, I don't see how Cara Dune as a character can have her own series. Because I think she fits too perfectly in the Mandalorian story. I'm not saying that she can't have her own story aside from this, but not yet have I been given the understanding of why she should or deserves her own series.
Yeah.
She's done a good job. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But she was only in 3 episodes.
Yeah. And there is a big fan base behind her, I think.
Oh, I agree. I think her acting is phenomenal. I think that Gina Carano does an amazing job. I just don't see where they would take the character in her own series with an estranged Bo-Katan appearance. That's too random for me.
Yeah. And there's plenty of other... I mean, that's the thing. I am totally behind so many other characters getting their own Disney Plus series. And I will be happy to eat my words in this season if she is in a lot of episodes and she's part...
Same.
Or if she has a really standout role in an episode and she just, I will be more than happy to say, yeah, I totally support this new show. But for right now, I don't really see from episode... Just seeing season 1... that, and maybe that's what Disney saw. Disney saw that because they've already finished season 3, and they're writing season 4.
They finished filming season 3 or writing it?
Writing season 3.
Okay.
Yeah, season 3.
So they know where they're going.
Or maybe season 3 is filming.
Wow, if that's the case, they're really far ahead.
Season 3, they said wouldn't be delayed in filming because season 2 was filming while season 1 was premiering last year. So I think it is getting ready to shoot or has. I don't know.
I think they have mapped out where all these characters are going by the end of it.
And the actor Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Moff Gideon, said that they have seasons, like he talked about seasons 3 and 4. So I would be more than happy to see this as a limited series up to like season 5, like Breaking Bad or something like that. Where
I mean, Clone Wars only had 5 seasons, but
yeah,
the fact is that these are 8 episodes. They're well done 8 episodes, but of course I don't want to see it end yet.
Oh yeah, I would want to see it be 2 seasons, kind of like. I don't want to see Cassian just be 2 seasons. Like, Obi-Wan, I'm fine. It's a limited series. Like...
See, I'm the exact opposite. I think Cassian and K2SO could be 1 season of the series. Because I already know where those characters end up. And it's 1 movie. It's Rogue One. They already made a comic about the character and how they meet. And it's just... There's not a lot of wiggle room for me there. But for Obi-Wan, I feel like there's a lot that's going to be put out on the table. And we're going to be left wanting more, and at the end of the day, they're not going to give us more.
Well, I think there's a lot of story potential in Cassian as far as the formation of the rebellion and things we did get to see in Rebels. And so, like, especially as someone who's been, like he says, he's been in the fight since he was 6 years old. Like, I think seeing him in a variety of time periods, and I think, in my opinion, they're going to make that comic not canon anymore. Like they're gonna overwrite
it. Don't do that. I don't want to do that.
It's such a bad comic. You have to.
But the thing is, when you say that this is all going to be canon, then it has to be canon because then it sets a precedent that anything else can be uncanonized, and I don't like that.
They've done that already a few times. So
yeah, but not a full issue of something. Like if they uncanonized the whole Ahsoka book and not just her lightsabers being a different color, then okay.
We'll see.
We'll see. And that's the beauty of it. We're not really, like, disagreeing. We're just having a conversation. It's fun to talk about these things. People get very personal. They hold their opinions way too personally. And it's so much fun to think about what's going to happen with Star Wars, especially being in a time frame where there's a lot more possibilities than there's been before. because with Disney Plus and the potential for basically any Star Wars series, I think these are all things that we could talk about and have different opinions on, and that's what makes it fun to discuss.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. You said Grief Karga is going to meet his demise in season 2.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, that, in my mind, that's my my farthest, I think it's like my farthest theory out there that I really want to
tell the world.
Yeah, I know it's not a crazy, like a crazy off the wall theory. I mean, I'd love to see some other characters, but in my mind, I'm really happy to just be surprised. I'm more ready to just be like, oh wow, they brought, like, not thinking about it, and I think that's the biggest thing. What about you?
No, yeah, I would agree. And I don't really have a whole lot of predictions for season 2. Mainly, I just don't want them to ruin whatever characters they bring in to the fold. And I want them to really stick with these strong characters that they've already established. Mandalorian, Cara Dune, Grief Karga. Like, I want to see those characters more and more and where they go and what their story arc really is. I have some thoughts and feelings about what they're doing with Baby Yoda and why they're after the child from you, because you were the one that brought that up, and I want you to tell them, because it's such a good theory. It really is such a good theory, and it's so off the wall that it's good.
And I've heard
I've heard it by no one.
And that's the thing.
I put it out there on TikTok just to say, like, what you guys think, and it didn't get the reaction that I, like, thought it could. So once again, I think if we discuss this here, it's such a wild and out theory that it just might be true.
Well, and that's the thing. And I am part of some other Discords, and I'm part of a Discord for another podcast group, and I talked about it on a Q&A with another podcast, and so my going theory is I've watched the series and I've seen the stuff and looking at the look of Moff Gideon and seeing what he looks like, his chest piece, his cape.
He's trying to be Darth Vader.
Yeah, and he has this lightsaber, and in my mind, he says the child means more to me than you can ever know. And in my mind, that means he's trying to capture the child, extract the midichlorians, and he wants to be a Force wielder, and he's trying to become like the Darth Vader of his new, like this new empire maybe that he's trying to form. And I think that'd be really compelling, off the wall kind of, like, just awesome.
Yeah, I agree completely. And when you told me that, I was like, this has got to be true. It's too perfect. And when I rewatched it, the series, I was trying to find something that would negate that would say that this wouldn't work, and I only found that it supports that theory between them saying we are trying to extract the material, just get it over with, no, I'm trying to save him, blah, 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 between the doctor, Pershing, and the client. I think that's it. But I find it amazing, too, that this is the time frame where you mentioned maybe he's trying to form his own version of the Empire. Have we seen something like that in other media? Have we seen, like, Imperials that try to do their own thing with it?
So we have seen some stuff about
for their own selfish purposes, mind you.
I'm trying to think. I recall reading a storyline with a character who had an ulterior motive, and, like, even I think it was during Imperial times. I'm trying to think. Not that I can think of, though.
Okay.
But, like,
so that would be a new story, is what I'm trying to think. Like, that could be something very unique to what this series is trying to show you. That the Imperials are just kind of all out for themselves, and they don't really know what to do with the remnants of what it is.
Especially if he wasn't invited into the unknown regions at the end of Aftermath.
Yes, because that is established.
And this is after Jakku, so, like, he didn't get invited to the party. So he's left with all these remnants of all these other systems, and, well, the rest of his friends are out in the unknown regions building the Final Order or whatever. The First Order and the Final Order.
Yeah.
Don't know how those...
We won't get into that yet.
Discussion for a different day, my friends.
Yes. It's a very Imperial idea, because you don't they don't understand how the Force works. That's not how the Force works. They don't understand that it's not just about having the midichlorians, and midichlorians are just the potential in order to use the Force. Whereas, yes, if you had more of them, the Force would be readily available, sure. But Gideon doesn't understand that he already has the Force living inside of him. Like, even clones have the Force inside of them, which Yoda mentions in the Clone Wars episode. See, we've come full circle talking about ambush. So I think that is a very, analytical perspective that someone like Moff Gideon would have in regards to how to be a leader of the new Empire.
And in my mind, I just hear Obi-Wan. Your new Empire.
Your new empire. Anyway, Sim's getting tired.
So all the memes just keep rolling out. You know?
The more tired you get, the more memes.
The more your inner Ewan McGregor comes out.
Yeah, I thought that was honestly like the biggest theory that I've ever heard for Mandalorian Season 2. So I wanted to talk about that for sure.
And thank you for reminding me because I forgot about it. I've been thinking
there you go. See, I've been hooked on that one. It's that's such a good one.
That's what I came up with that theory about, I don't know, 2 months ago? I was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I've been lately just been thinking about Grief Karga because I'm like...
He's gonna die, man. This is it. This is the end. Do you think we will see the Armorer return?
I think we're gonna have some... I think we may have some Mando-esque Machina sometime where the Mandos come in again and...
Because they left that door open, especially for the Jon Favreau Mandalorian character. What's his name?
Paz Vizsla.
Paz Vizsla, who is a descendant from Pre Vizsla, which is really cool to see that connection. I think he is, right? No?
Well, the last name's not spelled the same.
Is it really not? That makes me so disappointed.
It's like VIS.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, because like Jon Favreau's character is VIZLA in Clone Wars, and it's like VISZLA or something like that. It's like a very slight off spelling.
Now I need to research this. I need to fact check your Star Wars information. Anyways,
yeah,
the covert moved.
Yeah, and I think there are other coverts somewhere.
Yes.
So I think the Armorer is that wisdom, and that like, it's interesting to me that they left her behind as like the last one. Like everyone else left, and then they left her to like.
Because she has her duties or whatever that she has to live up to.
But she seems like the leader of the tribe. So like, why would they leave without the leader? Like,
I think there was, from what I understand from the way the characters kind of talk with each other, when she finds Mando at the end, or when they find her, whatever, the way she talks about it is that she didn't want them to go to the surface to save Mando. I think they honored what he was trying to do when they understood what his whole thing was about saving Baby Yoda. And they went to the surface without her permission. And she was like, oh, I knew this would happen. Because that's the vibe I get from the way she talks at times in that last episode.
Well, I'm going to be rewatching those episodes on Thursday night, so I'm going to look for that now.
Okay.
That's interesting that I never looked at it that way, so I'll have to check that out.
I think because they went to the surface to save him because he was doing the right thing. He was being a true Mandalorian and having honor to do what's right. Mm-hmm. That's the way I read it, though. I could be wrong. But I like where you're going, and I'm not trying to take your words from you. So what you're saying is, by the end of the series, we are going to see another reunification of the Mandalorians.
Yeah. I think their tribes are scattered all over.
Yes. Like, under the leadership of Mando. I don't know if I agree with that completely.
Because before with Sabine, we thought, oh, okay, she's going to be the leader of Mandalore because she's this character we followed. Yes. And then it became Bo-Katan.
Yes. I think Mando is going to give it up at the end of the series. Not this season, the series. And he's going to go back with the Widow from episode 4 and live a life with Baby Yoda and her child. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm calling it now.
Oh, man. She's just that weird kind of storyline that's just like...
It didn't seem quite right to you?
She knew how to use Bosk's rifle because Bosk was one of her ex-boyfriends, and...
That's not canon, is it? Pablo, oh no, you gave Pablo ideas.
Yeah, no, but I know it's not a bad idea. I think that I hope she does come back in. I've heard someone say a theory that she's going to come back in and that they're going to kill her as like a motivation to get...
That's very Western. Like the wife and kids are being held hostage, and the cowboy has to come back to town, and he's been off on his own for so long in order to save the woman he loves. Wow, that's a good one.
Not my theory, but someone's.
We don't even know who to reference anymore.
I listen to so much content and read so much stuff that it's
exactly like I said. You don't even know who says what anymore, or even where their information came from, because who knows if they were actually the ones that brought it up in the first place. I'm just excited to see, like with the Gamorrean guards, similar Star Wars language references. I loved all the Easter eggs from season 1 too, so I hope they continue down that route. It seems like they will, because the people who are making it appreciate Star Wars from such an in-depth perspective, truly. And I'm excited to see where it can go with bringing in some of the familiar faces that we know from other series or the rest of the saga as a whole. I'm excited for what we can see with these characters that we have grown to love through one season. Just one season, 8 episodes, and how much we can appreciate it.
Oh, for sure.
Blows me away.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been great just breaking it all down again, just to get ready. And
4 days.
Oh, yeah. I'm taking Friday off work, so...
I don't blame you. It'll be a good one.
It will be, and I'm not gonna wake up at 4 a.m. I was told I wasn't allowed to, so...
There was that one day when we decided to view the 4th episode of The Mandalorian. It was Black Friday, and we were going to wake up in the morning to watch that episode and then go shopping at 3 a.m.
Because that's what time you properly do nowadays.
Yeah, apparently.
Pre-corona.
And we did not like that episode at the time because we were so tired. I had to rewatch that episode like 3 times in order to actually focus on what was going on in the episode and not just remember my first time viewing it.
I still have hard feelings for that episode because it's a repeat. In my mind, it's like a hard a cop out for the Clone Wars episode where they do it in Fallujah, but
yeah, they've done the Kurosawa thing a million different.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy for them to reference it. It's just
Yeah, we've been there. We've done that.
Yeah,
I like the ATST. I like the dinosaur-looking monstrous thing that comes out of the woods.
Like the beginning of the movie Dinosaur.
Yes.
On that note.
Do you have any final thoughts, Sam?
No. It's great to have a medium. I hope that we hear some feedback back to talk about, see what you people think. And we're going to be here next week. I may be in a remote location. But
we're going to break down the first episode of Mandalorian and cover other Star Wars news and collectible topics, other pop culture, anything that's going on in
pop culture.
Whatever you guys want us to talk about, we will be here for it, and we just appreciate you watching the entire video if you made it this far.
And even if no one's watching it, it's nice for us to get our feelings out.
Exactly, and like I said, we've been wanting to do this for a very long time, and this is kind of, it's really cool to be able to do something very special and different with one of my best friends.
Yeah, awesome, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll see you back here for next week for another episode of Plos Bros.
Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.